Oh wow! I didn't realize I was muted. Let me start that all over again. Yo, 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 yo. It's your boy, the insurance junkie, your fiduciary fella, the all-star advisor, Alonzo Hall. And I've returned today to weapon tap on your head with another ADH wealth solution. Before we go in, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. And as always, share, share, share. Lastly, to contribute to channel growth or to schedule an appointment with a licensed financial professional, the links are in the description. this video. As we proceed to get, what the heck is this? Oh, okay. As we proceed to give you what you need. So today, since it's Tuesday, I figured text message rates will apply. So what that means is, obviously, you know, me being your fiduciary fella and an insurance junkie, it's going to have something to do with the insurance or financial sectors. So today, the reason I want to talk about text message rates applying is because of something that's unprecedented but recently happened. It's unprecedented for multiple reasons. One, because the way the world communicates now, and two, because the way the world communicates now. So in years past, as financial professionals, you corresponded sensitive information, generally in person, so on and so forth. People don't like to meet in person all the time anymore, nor do they have to. Things are much easier from being remote. For example, if you are a stockbroker and you have a client in Montana, as opposed to waiting for a fax, you can just directly email someone something. It's substantially easier. That's one of the possibilities. But nowadays, for example, if you text back and forth with a client, you may need sensitive information and they may just text it to you. Hey, what's your bank account? Oh, 123 456, thinking nothing of it because you are their fiduciary. But so what I want to talk about is a case that recently happened to a financial advisor or a broker over texting back and forth with a client. So I know it's something that you really don't think about, but you know, people are how they are. Some people don't want to give their information unless you're in person, as if somehow being in person is a deterrent for you to be scammed, I guess, or is a deterrent for someone to get your information. But also, people with nothing are generally the people who have that concern. Um, People who have things generally are not like, hey, I have to meet you in person. At least the wealthier people that I'm familiar with, they don't have to meet you in person. Yes, there are some old guard people who are interested in doing business that way, but for the most part, younger Gen X's, older millennials, and under have no problem with all the encrypted social media forms of contact that there are. So let's take a look here at today's article. So today we're looking at an article from Advisor Hub about an Edward Jones firing a veteran Arizona broker over client texting. A March 6, 2023 article, again from Advisor Hub staff. So Edward Jones and Company has fired 21-year industry veteran in Scottsdale, Arizona for texting with customers. Hold on. Let me change this. Oh, turn my phone off. Let me guess. I forgot I still have it. What was that? I don't even know what that noise was. Oh. These newfangled applications and stuff. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. And as always, share, share, share. Lastly, to contribute to channel growth or to schedule an appointment with a licensed financial professional, the links are in the description of this video. So, Edward Jones has fired a 21-year industry veteran in Scottsdale, Arizona for texting with customers in violation of firm policies, according to regulatory filings. In a discharge notice, St. Louis-based Edward Jones said Eric R. Krosky had compounded the issue by then deleting text messages prior to an unannounced branch audit, according to a U5 filing that appears on his broker check record. The termination, dated January 13th, comes as brokers' use of unapproved devices to text with customers has come under regulators' microscope. The Securities and Exchange Commission in the fall shifted its focus to money managers after banking giants paid more than $1.8 billion in settlements over the misuse of personal devices by bankers and traders. So what is this saying, folks? Basically, unfortunately, there is a lot of regulation, which is Dr. Mark, my man, what's going on? How are you? So basically what this is saying, and this is why even a lot of financial advisors who are securities licensed up the wazoo, like with their Series 7, etc., are preferring just to sell insurance and maybe some mutual funds because there's a whole lot less regulation. And now, due to some new laws in the insurance world, one that just got passed in the state of Illinois, which is the best interest law, which most of y'all who are familiar with New York financial services regulation are familiar with Regulation 187, the Client Suitability Act. Well, the Client Suitability Act got put supercharged and on steroids, and it's called the Best Interest Act. So that's why we as financial advisors need to join NAIFA, NAIFA, and come against a lot of these laws that they're making that are making our jobs much more difficult. Lobbyists, what can I say? That's why black folk, we need to go ahead and buy some politicians. Dr. Mark, you got me on my little bit of soapbox, so I'm going to do this article, but I'm also going to talk to folks the way that only I can, and I'm going to talk about what I'm passionate about. It's my channel, right? So realistically, especially in the African American community, we talk about things like generational wealth, but then we don't do things like buy generational life insurance. But we spend $6, $7, $8, $9,000 a month on a luxury car or Uber rides or our perm, right? And there's nothing wrong with doing that at all. I do it too. But in doing that, you want to at least eat something away and invest the rest realistically. But we'll get to that in a moment. I want to get back to this article because this is fairly interesting. So Stifel Financial, Raymond James Financial, and LPL Financial have separately reported in recent months that they are facing a review of record-keeping compliance tied to employee communications. What's going on, Just Gas Shar? So basically, what are they saying with that? Well, here's why text messaging, etc., is difficult. And again, most financial advisors are getting out of money management. They're getting out of AUM because they're either going to do completely fee for service and then make no commissions. It's going to be all fee, or, well, there's not too many other alternatives but deal with the heavy regulation, right? Unfortunately. Or they'll just sell insurance. But now they're making just selling insurance more convoluted. This is why a lot of people don't like to get securities licensed. Not that they're unable to do it, but you get just as much, if not more money out of selling insurance, to be honest. You just have to get the right demographic. Or the right single client. But here it says Stifel Financial, Raymond James, and a big boy, LPL, have separately reported in recent months that they are facing a review of record-keeping compliance tied to employee communications. So this is a big deal for example, with having specific licensure. So this is why it's very difficult to listen to easy, I should say, to listen to non-licensed financial people online, because there's no regulation over them. So they can say whatever, and whatever happens to you, there's no recourse. But someone who's licensed cannot talk about investments online in very specific ways. It has to be very, very vague. You can't be telling people what to invest in. Now, there's some differences if you look at things like, Squawk on the Street, Bloomberg, but that's more something that if you're a stockbroker, you're watching, because that's kind of work related. I've done a stint as a stockbroker. Trust me, there's that and copious amounts of other things. So, a spokesperson for Edwards Jones, which is among the largest full-service firms by its more than 18,000 brokers, did not respond to a request for comment. The firm did not say how the issue came to light, but noted that Krosky admitted to deleting the messages. So again, that regulation and oversight, American Negro, what's going on? So that oversight is this. Again, with the high regulation of financial services, if I'm sending text messages from my personal phone, that's information that the financial services firm is not keeping record of, which is why they tell you, know what, send an email, because if it's an email, there's a track record of it. Text messages, not so much, and then you probably don't want folks on through your phone, even if it is a work phone, right? Because again, a lot of these brokers are completely independent. Some work specifically for Edward Jones, Raymond James, LPL, so they draw a salary. Some are completely independent, like myself, right? So they're like drug dealers. They don't make anything unless they move that dope. So firms must record their brokers' business-related client communications as part of their compliance obligations. So again, like I said, one of the major difficulties there is if we're communicating through our cell phones, that's not a form of communication that is very easy with the client, or with the company in compliance. But here's the difficulty. In the world that we live in today, because everybody's got 24/7 access to everything, they really just want to be able to shoot you a text or shoot you an Instagram or so on and so forth. Unfortunately, whatever happens, happens. Wally, what's going on? So again, firms must record their brokers' business-related client communications as part of their compliance obligations. And more brokerages are leaning toward zero tolerance for not using approved applications or business phones, given the potential regulatory fallout, said Brad Bennett, who previously served as the head of enforcement at the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, or FINRA. This is a pretty basic reason to get fired, Bennett said. Brokers' unrecorded and deleted text messages undermine the integrity of the compliance function at firms. Krosky referred questions to his lawyer, Jeffrey Gardner, at Jennings, Strauss & Salmon in Phoenix, who did not respond to an emailed request for comment. Krosky first registered as a broker in 2000 with Merrill Lynch and shifted between 5 firms before joining Jones in 2017, according to BrokerCheck. This is something I want to talk to black folk about too, because see, apparently y'all don't understand how financial services works, obviously, because most of the most successful financial services professionals, if they had a captive career, weren't with just one company. As you can see, this 21-year vet jumped around from 5 different companies in a short period of time. The reason why: companies' products change and your client base changes. Stuff like that happens. Now they have a lot more IMOs, which is independent marketing organizations. So now a lot of the IMOs will be underneath, for example, ADH Wealth Solutions, which will be a general agent with relationships with multitudes of carriers. So a lot of that tends to pull back. But especially when you're looking at securities licensure, you still end up having to bounce back and forth. Why? Because with certain securities licenses, you have to have your license held with what's called the broker dealer or the BD. And again, most Americans won't know this, not just black folk, but Americans in general, because there's only a certain percentage who actually flourish in this field. So there's a lot of burnout. But so you would have to take your license from brokerage to brokerage to even offer particular funds. There is the option as a broker sometimes to have dual agency or work with multiple brokers, but most broker dealers want to keep you in-house and all money managed or AUM. It's because of the way that they're going to be paying you. So they want to structure it a certain way. So, as we continue. So Krosky first registered as a broker in 2000 with Merrill Lynch and switched between 5 firms before joining Jones in 2017, according to BrokerCheck. 2 weeks after his registration with Jones officially ended on February 9th, he joined the Ameriflex Group, a registered investment advisory firm that brokers through Sageport Financial. Ameriflex oversees $2.9 billion in advisory assets, according to an SEC filing. So because I didn't know about Ameriflex, and I'm in the field, who knew about Ameriflex? And their 2.9 billion is a lot, but it's a decent-sized firm. Coinciding with federal regulators' crackdown on texting by bankers and traders, the brokerage industry's self-regulator also last year disciplined individual brokers for misusing personal communication devices. By that time, FINRA meted out that fine. The Securities and Exchange Commission and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Wait, there's a CFTC? Commodities Futures Trading Commission? Interesting. I mean, I knew that, but I'm being facetious here. Though they had already been imposing earlier in this year what would ultimately be some $1 billion of fines against financial institutions for failing to capture their employees' electronic messaging. So let's see now what some other advisors are saying about this here. So someone says a Bank of America employee says, what a sucky way to get fired. How do they know? Did their clients rat them out? That is a good question. It says, just use your red phone and open those checking accounts. You should be fine. Replied to Big Brother of America. That's funny. Someone says, I had no idea that a broker texting a customer was a problem. I have texted my broker before about my account with her. I certainly don't want to get her in trouble. I figured texting was a legitimate way to communicate. I feel that firing the man was entirely too harsh. Mr. John Fowler. Sure, Miss Clown. I'm not sure what that person was saying. They will terminate you in a second. Your livelihood means nothing to them. This is so true. This is messed up, but they just fired this dude because he texted his clients. It says you can text your clients from your company-provided computer so they can monitor your activity. You cannot text from your personal phone. That's well known throughout the firm and the industry as a whole. It's the cover-up, the deletion of wrongdoing that will sink you in the end. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking. In the end, someone was looking. You can text from your phone if you have the proper software. This is an industry standard. His BOA and or other FA must have ratted him out. Fairness would seem to require that firms only be required to capture and monitor texts that were business related, and discipline should only be warranted if employees violated the policy of no texting with clients regarding business dealings. This Big Brother read them off. In my opinion, yeah, I get it. What's going on, Sunkiss? How are you? So again, ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. And as always, share, share, share. Lastly, to contribute to channel growth or to schedule an appointment with a licensed financial professional, the links are in the description of this video. So now that we've gotten the texting stuff out of the way, let's take a look at one more article here from Advisor Hub. And here they're telling you guys about the Sector Spider 500s and all that good stuff. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Specified standardized performance available here. So, folks, when you look at this stuff and people show you their charts, they're going to show you a bunch of this. So, again, you generally have the 1 month, right? The last quarter, what's going on year to date. And like I said, the 52-week moving average. They also are going to annualize it in 3 years, what it's been doing, 5 years, and in 10 years, what it's been doing. So this one is not that old. Since inception, what it's been doing. This particular ETF is not that old. But anyway. Did I go back? No. Okay. Oh, I don't even think you guys were getting to see that, huh? I'm sorry. So, Biden eyes a tax hike on income over $400,000 to fund Medicare. It says, was this a company self-audit or someone told? So I'm thinking it's a combination of both, Kimani, because the that is difficult to find out, but what ends up happening is it's probably a dry snitch, right? They call someone's assistant. For example, when I used to work at Mutual of Omaha back in like 2012, I had an assistant. I didn't pay her a ton of money because she only worked 3 days a week, but I paid her $100 a day. So $300 a week, $100 a day, right? So I paid her $100, and this was in 2012. So I paid her $100 a day, and the way that it would work is she would go into the office and all my communication. So I would have her set my appointments, right? So she would do my cold calling, and I would have her do a lot of my admin, my paperwork, so that I am able to do what I'm best at, which is actually be out there selling. The difficulty about this industry is there are a multitude of hats that you're going to end up wearing. I'll bring this article back up in a second, but there are a multitude of hats that you're going to end up wearing. So, one of them is marketing. Well, if marketing isn't your strength, then you got to do something else. Well, besides marketing, right? If I stand outside all day and finally get 100 phone numbers of people if I just stand out, hey, you want to buy life insurance? You want to buy life insurance? Okay, boom. And then we finally get your phone number. Now I got to call you. And then that's a whole nother hurdle. Then we got to set the appointment. Then that's a whole nother hurdle. But then when you do shit like have a heart attack, you start to think. But in terms of the regulatory, so you have to realize you can just be, like I said, my assistant would be doing all my work from the office, right? My office was 100 Broadway on the 17th floor. Yeah, what's going on? Roguish. So my office was 100 Broadway on the 17th floor. Like I said, I'm cut from a different cloth. I'm not your average bear, right? So my office was, when you came out of 100 Broadway, you take 2 left. The New York Stock Exchange is right there. I worked as a stockbroker at a company called E.J. Sterling at 39 Broadway, right? So, Malika, what's going on? Oh, no problem. So, the difficulty was I had to make sure to remain compliant. So all my communication had to be from the work phone so that they could keep a record of it. But as time started going, I started doing things like not having to be at the office because, on these lovely devices we have things like our Google Calendar. So I shared my Google Calendar with her, and I'd be like, hey, just put the appointment on, and while I'm on the bus to Atlantic City, you'll let me know that I got an appointment Thursday. Okay, boom. And so that's how that would work. But so something that simple could have happened where a customer called and the assistant was like, all right, well, I don't have a record of, you guys talking about this $250,000. Where'd this come from? And then things take off. So such is life. Such is life. At any rate, let's add this back to the stream here. So now we're going to take a look at Joe Biden. So this is an article from Bloomberg News on today, March 7th, 2023. And it's about Biden eyeing a tax hike on income over $400,000 to fund Medicare. And I may open it up for anyone who wants to come and talk about either one of the articles. Okay. So President Joe Biden's budget will propose hiking payroll taxes on Americans making over $400,000 per year and allowing the government new power to negotiate drug prices as part of an effort. The White House says will extend the solvency of a key Medicare program for another quarter century. The budget I'm releasing this week will make the Medicare Trust Fund solvent beyond 2050 without cutting a penny in benefits, Biden said Tuesday in an op-ed published in the New York Times, shortly before the announcement. In fact, we can get better value making sure Americans receive better care for the money they pay into Medicare. His plan has little chance of becoming law, especially after Republicans took control of the House in January. But the proposal is an important signpost for negotiations over government spending and offers the president a chance to publicly outline his priorities. The president's budget, which will be released Thursday, proposes raising Medicare taxes from 3.8% to 5% on annual income above $400K. And eliminating a loophole business owners and higher earners can exploit to avoid additional taxes. According to a White House fact sheet, Biden's plan would also help bolster Medicare reserves through some $200 billion in prescription drug reforms over the next decade by allowing the insurance programs to negotiate costs on more medications and sooner after they come to the market. The Medicare portion of the budget plan was announced by the White House on Tuesday and reported earlier by the Washington Post. The moves are part of a concerted effort by the White House ahead of looming negotiations over the debt ceiling and government funding, where Republicans vow to seek deep cuts to federal spending. Rael, what's going on, bro? How are you? So again, ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. And as always, share, share, share. Lastly, to contribute to channel growth or to schedule an appointment with a licensed financial professional, the links are in the description of this video. So, GOP pushback. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has vowed the GOP won't touch Medicare or Social Security programs that share bipartisan support, particularly among elderly voters. But Democrats, including Biden, have repeatedly highlighted past GOP efforts to overhaul the entitlement programs by reducing eligibility or benefits. Ahead of the budget's release, the White House officials have challenged McCarthy to specify where he would pursue cuts. Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, in a letter to Biden dated Monday, urged him to stand firm against Republican demands for tax breaks and reduced spending, citing a Moody's Analytics estimate that massive cuts threaten to trigger a recession and cost 2.6 million jobs. Who calling my house now? No doubt, bro. What's going on? So I'm just going over this second article. I'm going to open it up in a minute to allow people come up and we can speak about these articles. Let me try and increase this a little bit. It looks a little blurry. Let me see if that looks a little better. Yeah, that looks a little better because it was a little blurry. So the Republican approach to the debt ceiling will either result in a catastrophic default and an economic recession, or massive cuts to key government programs that destroy millions of jobs, the Massachusetts senator wrote. I know you're committed to making important investments in American families and to making the wealthy pay their fair share. And I urge you to continue that approach in your budget and stand firm against Republicans' economy. and job-destroying debt-ceiling demands. Democrats are hoping Biden's budget, which would reduce the deficit by $2 trillion over the next 10 years, will provide a political advantage by keeping benefits intact with higher taxes on the wealthy, helping to offset rising costs. Medicare's Hospital Insurance Trust Fund, also known as Part A, pays for hospital stays, nursing facilities, and hospices. It is currently projected to reach insolvency as soon as 2028, according to the most recent Medicare Trustees report. No doubt, bro. Actually, let me send out this link real quick. So anyone who wants to hop on, feel welcome. We're going to be talking about these articles. And I'm definitely open to insight from anyone who wants to speak on them. I'll bring you up shortly. Let me just finish the article, and we'll do that. So this is insane, but this is one of the things. So if Medicare is likely to reach insolvency by 2028, why are all these other people telling you that Social Security is not going to reach insolvency soon? So again, right now, FRA, full retirement age, and this is something your financial advisor probably ain't talking to you about, or they are and you're just not listening. That's generally what happens. Maybe they should text you. Who's calling me now? So, where was I? Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. And as always, share, share, share. Lastly, to contribute to channel growth or to schedule an appointment with a licensed financial professional, the links are in the description of this video. So again, the FRA, or full retirement age, is 67, and that's for people who were born 1967 or after. So what that means is for you to be fully eligible for your retirement, you need to reach the age of 67. Now that's again for people born in 1967. That's what, 55 years ago at this point? So do you think they're going to change the FRA age soon for at least those who were born in 87, since that's their pattern? They've changed it pretty much every 20 to 25 years, right? So it's likely time for a change because they haven't changed it in 55 years. 1967, they were like FRA, but then we've had all these explosions and things like, what's going on, Toya? We've had all these explosions in inflation. So, a lot of that has changed, a lot of the situation. So again, if Medicare is going to be insolvent by 2028, what makes you 40, 50, 60-year-old people think that in the next 7 years, because 2028 is shorter than 7 years, in the next 7 years, that Social Security won't be insolvent? Remember, there's a huge issue. People are living longer, which is part of the reason things like the COVID exist, because they needed to prune the population because of resources. It's a cruel world, but that's what it is. So they had to cull the population for those resources, right? So they then have less people around, so there's money now available. So again, these older people are living longer. So because people, due to modern science, people are living longer, and due to modern science and people making money off of medicine, because now medicines are keeping you alive longer that you have to take daily, which means continued monthly prescriptions. So the longer they keep you alive with it, the more money the doctors make, the more money the pharmaceutical industry makes, the more money the political lobbyists make. So we're going to go deep down this rabbit hole. Says I'm living till I'm 120. You know what, Toya? You've just enticed me to do something. So let me just do, in fact, let me just do it like this. I just want to show you something. She said I'm living till 120. I'm going to show y'all something. We're going to do something funny. I'm gonna stop this for a second. And wipe ass. Yes, indeed. Critically drinking. What's going on? Wipe ass. But Toya, you see this, right? Now remember what I said about the earning every wrinkle. Oh, I like that. So I want you guys to remember what I said about that life expectancy, right? People are living longer. So again, this is my illustration software. This is how people quote you life insurance. What does that say? That's not something that I type in there. That says print to age 121, right? Because the mortality rates are like that as of now, right? So don't believe me, just watch. We're going to go back to the home, right? We're going to go clients and cases. I'm going to pull up a random fake ad. Let's do this guy. So Mr. Barnes, right? Modify his case, right? Well, this one is print to age 75. That's funny. Let's do a brand new one. In fact, clients and cases. So there's no, because I'm modifying cases. New, okay. 100 years old, right? I'm going to say they're female and they are 40 years old, right? So it's born in 1983. We're gonna return and we're going to create a new case for 100 years old. Boom, print to age 121, right? Now, obviously, I just created that. What does this say? To age 121. So those rates of mortality are already there. We ain't playing. No games. No game should be being played. Right? He said, I know what I say is true. Let's see what we have here. Let me just check into the comments. 120. Death doesn't become her. Well, as you can see from the rates of mortality that I just showed you, brother, that 120 is young. You got to live to 100. We're projecting people to live. The insurance companies are projecting people to live to 121 years old. This is something that's going to sneak up on a lot of folks. She said, no, I told you, you're staying 12 and I will have no back talk about it. Okay? And he says 120 who's trying to live that long. Death Becomes Her is a good movie. So let me bring this article back up. But again, these insurance companies are already projecting those age rates for people. It says not prepared to be here that long financially. Most people are not prepared to be here that long financially. That's why they keep pushing you into 401ks and certain types of IRAs because they pay out period certain. What does that mean? That means that old lady that saved up 100 and let's say the average 401k balance is about 168,000. So let's say 170,000. That lady saved up $170,000 in her 401k, right? She's 65 years old and she's retired. Even though it's 67, we're going to use 65, right? So at 170k, she can get $17,000 a year for 10 years. So after that, all the money's gone. So then she becomes the old lady that's working at Walmart checking your receipts. Not because she wanted something to do, but because she had to. Because she outlived her life expectancy. Or what she funded for retirement. Now, if you're interested in learning more about how to protect yourself in multiple ways from that retirement trap, make sure you schedule a consult. She's laughing at the old lady at Walmart. But it's very true. So back to this article. Let me increase this size because this is, here we go. So where was I? Yeah. So Democrats are hoping Biden's budget, which would reduce the deficit by $2 trillion over the next 10 years, will provide a political advantage by keeping benefits intact with higher taxes on the wealthy, helping to offset rising costs. Medicare's Hospital Insurance Trust Fund, also known as Medicare Part A, pays for hospital stays, nursing facilities, and hospices. And you see the trash treatment you get with those Medicare. They make you be completely broke. It is currently projected to reach insolvency as soon as 2028. So that's the next 5 years, according to the most recent Medicare trustees report. This modest increase in Medicare contributions from those with the highest income will help keep the Medicare program strong for decades to come. My budget will make sure the money goes directly into the Medicare Trust Fund, protecting taxpayers' investment and the future of the program, Biden said in his op-ed. Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota praised Biden's proposal in a tweet Tuesday, calling it the right thing to do. Now, this is messed up. Why isn't she? She says, "No, I'm just crying." LOL. That's what I said. You're crying, laughing at the Walmart lady. Outkick our coverage. Yeah. So again, this public official can tweet and not lose their job. This federal government public official who makes laws can tweet willy-nilly. Donald Trump did it. And they're still keeping their job. Meanwhile, the prior article that I just read showed that Edward Jones Financial fired a 21-year financial advisor because he was texting back and forth with a client. It's kind of foul. This plan lowers prices for more prescription drugs, just like my Medicare Part D negotiation bill does, Klobuchar wrote. Bringing prices down for 50 million seniors helps everyone. This is true. Seniors do actually spend quite a bit of money. Ending loophole. In addition to the higher Medicare tax rate on income above $400K, Biden's plan would eliminate a loophole that allows certain business owners who receive income through an S corporation, limited liability company, or limited partnership to avoid paying Medicare taxes on some of their income. Now, this I don't like. I was cool with Biden with the other stuff, but now he's messing with some of my tax saving strategies that help me with my wealthy clients, especially those that are S corps and LLCs. The plan would also dedicate the proceeds from a tax created as part of Obamacare, known as the Net Investment Income Tax, to the Hospital Insurance Trust Fund. While doing so would not impact the overall federal deficit, since it amounts to diverting an existing revenue stream, the proposal does allow the administration to say it is extending the program's solvency. Proposed changes to Medicare's ability to negotiate prescription drugs would also benefit seniors on Medicare by lowering their out-of-pocket costs, the White House says. Biden's budget will specifically propose capping the cost of certain generic drugs, like those used to treat hypertension and high cholesterol, to $2 per prescription per month. The budget also eliminates the fee patients have to pay on up to 3 mental or behavioral health visits per year. Okay, well, you know what? That doesn't hurt because I understand it. It actually would be, as a little bit of a socialist, but more of a capitalist. I could definitely understand why this would be beneficial for a multitude of people, even lower income people. And it would even further stimulate the economy because they'd have, instead of spending money or deciding their last dollar on ABC, XYZ, or the medicine, they would get the medicine and still go buy their ham and cheese sandwich. So it just kind of works like that. So let's see. I think I'm gonna stop there, folks. Looking at the breakaway center. Oh wow, I can actually take a look at hiring new advisors. I'm gonna take a look at this article. Ooh, 5 business models for the IRA. This is a good. What financial advisors should know about business technology needs? Let's take a look at that article really quick. And ladies and gentlemen, again, if you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. I'm going to put the link in the chat one more time. Anybody who's interested is welcome to. So I'm going to have to book a session as soon as I get my willpower up. Now, see, I like that one. That's what I'm going to start telling people they should start doing as soon as they get their willpower up. Now, here's the thing, right? You say that, but you don't know what willpower you need, right? The simple thing is there's no time like the present, to be honest. And it sounds like just another excuse to stop you because you don't know what you need willpower for, right? For all you know, when we have our appointment, I may tell you, you're doing excellent. The will to follow through on the advice. Right. You don't know what advice I'll give. So you may not be following. I may be like, hey, listen, you're in a position to, not do nothing right now. But you should actually continue. One of the things that I mentioned when you did ask, a bit of advice, which was, what is the for the just the bare bones basic, what's a bit of advice you would give someone? And my first thing is create a savings, so you have a cushion, right? $1,000 to start is pretty good, but to be honest, to build that willpower, just start I'm saving and paying down credit. Okay. Definitely. So, maybe do smaller increments to your saving, higher increments to your credit, right? It really depends. Is it revolving credit? I'm assuming it's not installment debt. Well, installment debt, it could be because it could be a vehicle, right? People need to also understand the different types of credit, right? There's revolving credit, there's business credit, right? There's also installment credit, right? So what's installment credit? When you're buying things that you're paying off in an installment, they can come repossess or not, like a home, right? They can't really, but they can foreclose on a home, right? They can come kick you out and do stuff like that. Absolutely. Credit cards is revolving. So what you should do, stop balance transferring. Hopefully it's only like 3 cards. You'll be able to, and this is not specific advice, ladies and gentlemen. This is specifically for well, this is specific advice. This is specifically for critically drinking. Not for everyone in the world, but as a layman, right? The best kinds of things to get yourself in good position when you got credit cards, you kind of want to do the 3-card money with them, right? So you find out which one has your highest interest rate, not your highest balance, but your highest interest rate. And you pay that off first, right? So even if it's your lowest balance, if it's your highest interest rate, allocate the funds to knock that one off first because it's the interest that you don't want to continue paying, right? Then you'll allocate whatever you would allocate to, and I mean, hopefully it's also your lowest balance because you really want to knock off your lowest balance. Let's say your lowest balance is $25 a month and you pay that off in 6 months. Then you want to take that $25 and you don't want to put it to savings. You want to put it to the other credit card debt. And then that'll speed up your payment. Months. Then that's $150 incomplete. So now you take that $150 on top and you put it to the next card. Pay that off complete. Boom. Then you start doing the thing that will get you approved for Amex, right? What is that? You need to look at your number one, your DTI, your debt to income ratio, and basically your utilization. So you want to take a look at how much credit you're using. You really want to be at about 30%, just because that's kind of reasonable, or common, should I say. But I want to present one more thing to y'all in honor of, or late honor of, Black History Month. We're going to type in Alonzo Herndon, American entrepreneur, because I always talk about him, but nobody's actually looked him up. So Alonzo Herndon, American entrepreneur. What is this? Wikipedia? What is this? So let's look at Georgia Public Broadcasting. Or let's look at African American Registry. Let's look at let's look at Black Past. So Alonzo Herndon, born 1858, died 1927. Right? And then I'm gonna hop off of here because I've almost been going for a little over an hour. So Alonzo Franklin Herndon. Alonzo Franklin Herndon was an African American entrepreneur who founded and was the first president of Atlanta Life Insurance Company. Herndon was born on June 26, 1858 in Walton County, Georgia, to Frank Herndon, a white farmer, and Safini, his slave. By the time of his death in 1927, Herndon was Atlanta, Georgia's wealthiest African Americans and one of the first Black millionaires in the United States. So he worked on his father's plantation, freed by the 13th Amendment. His mother, younger brother, and grandparents became sharecroppers. He supplemented the family by working as a day laborer peddling peanuts. At the age of 20, he left his family and moved to Jonesboro, Georgia, where he opened his first barber shop. He developed a great reputation as a barber as his business thrived. In 1883, he migrated to Atlanta to continuing in the barbering business in the largest city in the state. By 1904, he owned 3 barbershops in Atlanta, advertising one of them as the largest and best barbershop in the region. His clientele included Atlanta's leading lawyers, judges, politicians, and businessmen, and his earnings grew. Herndon began to invest in real estate, purchasing more than 100 rental houses, commercial property along Auburn Avenue in Atlanta, and a plantation near Tavares, Florida. At the time of his death, Herndon's real estate holdings were valued at nearly $325,000. In 1905, Herndon purchased a failing insurance company, which he incorporated as Atlanta Mutual Insurance Association. He took over a company which had $5,000 in assets in 1905. By 1922, the company had more than $400,000 in assets. That year, Herndon changed the name of the company to Atlanta Life Insurance Company. The company rapidly expanded, establishing branches in Florida, Kansas, Kentucky, Missouri, Tennessee, and Texas. Herndon saved other failing insurance companies by merging their company with Atlanta Life Insurance, claiming his efforts were designed to build confidence in Black businesses and save jobs for African American men and women. Regardless of the reason, his acquisition strategy made Atlanta Life Insurance one of the most successful Black businesses in the nation by the 1920s. So Alonzo Herndon was active in a variety of economic and political causes. He was a founding member of Booker T. Washington's National Negro Business League in 1900. 5 years later, he was one of the original members of the W.E.B. Du Bois-led Niagara Movement. Herndon also used his wealth to support local institutions and causes such as the Young Men's Christian Issues Association, Atlanta University, the First Congregational Church, the Southview Cemetery, and the Atlanta State Savings Bank. Damn. My niggas. My niggas. I'm just saying. Right, what's going on, brother?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Peace, man. Peace to the chat. Um, yo, it's funny you just brought up. Please drop that article that you just read from in the chat and in the back chat. Um, it's funny that you brought up the National Negro Business League. Me and Complex will actually be doing a stream concerning Booker T. Washington real soon on the Black Brain Trust.
Huh?
Um, because it's really critical that, hold on one second.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, when he comes back again, the National Negro Business League, all these things, these were created by people in the 1800s, right? In the this guy died in 1927, almost 100 years ago. His company, hold on, let me pull up his company.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the company. Give me 1 second, all right? So Atlanta Life Insurance Company. Right? I just want to pull this up. So let's go to their website. Right? Bam! It's very blackety black right off the rip. Right? So Atlanta Life Insurance, born from a bright dream. They now, what the company was worth in 100 years ago, they gave away in 2019. Right? 130 students enrolled in the Herndon Game Changer program. 200,000 plus scholarships awarded. Right? Now, these guys, wait, I want to see. So About Us, if I go to the About Us, and you see there, Peachtree Street. I don't know. I used to live in Georgia. I used to go to Peachtree. I went to JD's restaurant back in the day, right? So more than 100 years ago, Franklin, former slave, da-da-da-da. We kind of read that. Okay, so this is about his foundations. But let's check group reinsurance. So Atlanta Life works with some of the largest names in corporate America to help spread out their risks. So these companies come to Atlanta Life Insurance to buy what's called reinsurance. So what that means is these companies say, hey, we've got some risks. We need some insurance in case something happens. So Pittsburgh steel industry, the Pittsburgh steel industry, that's not the Steelers. That's the steel industry. The Pittsburgh Steelers had to pay a lot of money to be able to use this emblem. General Motors, Macy's, American Airlines, Johnson Controls, Delta Airlines, Rockwell International, Daimler Chrysler, aka Benz. I don't know if they're still Daimler Benz, but I know they probably are, but Dow, this is a like a chemical company. MetLife Insurance Company and Financial Services, and Georgia Pacific. So it's very, very disturbing to me that according to the Conference of African American Financial Professionals, only 6.7% of licensed financial professionals are black. Yet we've got a black company like this that's reinsuring industries. What's the first thing I said when I came in here, bro? Industries. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I was saying, you know, really, what you're really getting at is something that a lot of people are not really adept at, and it's really called financial literacy.
Mm.
So, um, as I'm going through the research for this presentation, you know how when we talk about how we have this mentality amongst blacks that, well, black people, it's almost it's accepted as a way of life that Black people don't know how or have never
Mm.
learned or knew how to work together from a financial literacy standpoint.
Fact.
And we accept it as the norm. But doing the research
Very bad.
on Booker T. Washington in particular, what I'm learning in great detail is that that is completely false. It's completely false to think that Black people never knew how to pull their money together to advance the interests of the group. Everything that I'm seeing that Booker T. Washington specifically had his hands on was specifically, without a doubt, set up to better Black people in the Black community, from Tuskegee, from his Tuskegee Farmers Conferences he had, to the National Negro Business League, his business endeavors in Africa that a lot of people don't really know anything about, that I'll be touching on. And one of the things that I'm learning, especially through his Tuskegee Farmers Conferences, was that he was very adamant about showing Black people how to be financially solvent, showing them how to go from having mortgages on their homes to being free and clear, from going to being tenant farmers to being so successful that they were able to get away from being sharecroppers to actually owning their homes. Owning their farm, owning farms, and being successful. Ultimately, entrepreneurs being able to sell their produce. There's a story that I'm going to cover between a Black man and a Black woman, and what I'm finding more so ironic, more so than anything, is that in the research that I'm finding out, Booker T. Washington was able to not only incorporate Black men into these particular endeavors, but he was also able to have Black women be a part of the men that they were with specifically, to buy into them being a part of those endeavors as well. He had women a part of the National Negro Business League, like Madam C.J. Walker, who we all understand became a millionaire through the things that she was doing in business. And what you find is that this notion that Black men and women specifically, but Black people as a whole, even from a family standpoint, especially from a family standpoint, this idea that Black people have never been the type of people who have been able to pull their resources together to build is completely and objectively false. So one of the things that I want to do is put to bed the notion that Black people don't know how to pull their resources together, because it's completely false. Because Booker T. Washington and his work showed that this was something that was actually more normal than what we actually realize. And what's actually abnormal is Black people not working together. That's what's abnormal.
Exactly.
It's become so normalized that we have just accepted it as the norm, when it has historically, it wasn't the norm. I would say that it has become the norm in the last 50 to 60 years. But post slavery, Black people were doing some phenomenal things that even myself, like even I wasn't really aware of. Many of the you had banking associations, you had insurance associations that literally came out of the men coming together in the National Negro Business League. Like, you had these types of things formulating, real estate development companies being formulated. I mean, you're talking about, I think they had at least 34 states where they had chapters of the National Negro Business League. I mean, people from all states coming together, Black people from all over coming together. I mean, can you just imagine Black people from all over the United States, men and women coming to a business-centered conference, talking to each other about not just business, but how they can help each other's businesses improve. I mean, you're talking about some phenomenal shit. This organization was started in 1900. You're talking about 35 years after chattel slavery was ended legally. You're talking about a business league started by Black men in the United States that Teddy Roosevelt used as a template to set up the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is the largest business organization in the world. He used Booker T's National Negro Business League model to set up the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Like you can't even. The breadth of that is just it's astonishing. And so when you start talking about the legacy of what black men have been able to put down, working in concert with Black women back during those times, you had Black-owned banks. Booker T. Washington had it to where you had white farmers who were taking his farming classes to improve their farming skills. I mean, you're talking about some phenomenal type shit, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, bro. When we put ourselves to it, it can actually be done, right? But what I think what is it? Inya says similar, on a large scale, we end up looking divided, that it looks impossible. She said, which is the objective, trying to create the narrative that it is impossible or too much work. I think also what it is, like you said, now it's also an image that's been given to us and to put upon us by others, right? That we've started to not believe that, but also as a people, we're tribal. So what ends up happening is we only work with this clique of people or that clique of people, as opposed to what a lot of others do. They work cliquishly, but they initially, until they're all able to be cliquish, they work together and then they click off, right? Let's use a Chinatown, for example, so things like that, right? I think one of those big thing, like, again, working on Wall Street, bro, I used to see some craziness. So one of the things that used to piss me off was while I was at Mutual of Omaha, we would get these things called orphan leads, which most people don't know. They become orphan leads when a agent who is working, like if I worked for New York Life and that was the only company I worked for, all my clients, when I leave New York Life, become the property of New York Life. So you would become an orphan to a newer agent or another agent who's with New York Life. And then they would take over the policies and stuff. So then they would call you, hey, so-and-so, this, that, and the third about your policy. I need to set up an appointment, do a review, try to get another sale, right?
Right.
Well, in doing so, we had those at Mutual of Omaha, but a lot of those were final expense clients because final expense was a big product back in the days and still is now. But final expense, which is basically the poor man's policy, they would put maybe $5,000 death benefit on a person and expect them only to live 10 years, otherwise they're overpaying for the policy. So they would then go to these houses, right? A lot of them would be like in the projects or something in Harlem, and they would go to the buildings and he would find out, oh shit, this isn't a project building. Well, I'm not going up there. And he would call them and reschedule the appointment. So what do you think that does when the majority of people who are living in the projects in Harlem and in the Bronx are Black people who are trying to pass down generational wealth in some form or fashion? And then the agents never come to that. They always got to reschedule. Well, it decreases your confidence. So now when the black agent comes in, like I've often come in, now people, well, how do I know you're legit? Why would I scam you for your little $40 for this $5,000 death benefit? Right? Um, but so there is that stain on a lot of these industries and these uh, inflection points of working together that has happened recently uh, in inside of the last 50 years. But go ahead.
Well, I finally cracked the code to why. It's not the what, it's the why. You and I both know that whenever we get to talking business on this level, especially amongst black people, there is a tendency for black people to try to pull your black card. They will try to associate or insinuate or sometimes outright directly basically say you're less than black because what they deem you're doing is some white people shit. And we can never get anywhere past that because obviously once somebody hits you with the sellout Uncle Tom moniker, it's going to be a fight. But this comes from a real argument, though. This is nothing new. This is an argument that took place that it really was a one-sided argument from uh, W.B. Du Bois' side against Booker T. Washington because he didn't agree with um, Booker T's um, strategy in terms of elevating black people. And the irony of it all is that we tend to make fun of a lot of people that consider themselves, pro-black and the whole so we crack jokes and stuff like that. But that nationalist framework that a lot of pro-blacks use, when they call themselves black nationalists or pan-Africanists and stuff like that, it wouldn't even exist without the economic expansion model from Booker T. Washington. Garvey actually learned and wanted to replicate Booker T. Washington's model in Jamaica. And this had a lot of wide ranging problems for white capitalism nationally and internationally. And so the people that many of them, or the people that were used to undermine people like Booker T. Washington and Garvey were the black intelligentsia class like Du Bois, who literally formulated the NAACP as a group to stifle and offer dissent towards Booker T. Washington's framework. That's the reason why it came into existence. And so from that particular standpoint, there were times where he literally questioned Booker T. Washington's masculinity in his approach, not realizing that behind the scenes, Booker T. Washington got a lot of things done politically because he had the money to do things. He was able to actually
Powernomics.
gain influence because he had the model. And so what happened was Booker T. Washington, Du Bois, he split black economics from black civil rights. He made it an either or thing when it used to be just one thing. Booker T. Washington was about using his economic framework to gain black people respect in the overall society so they could exercise their rights. Because just because we had the right to vote in terms of the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendments, if you lived in the South, you knew it was a different story based on the Klan and the slave codes and all these different things that states were able to employ because, especially once the troops were taken out of the South for Reconstruction. So uh, Booker T. Washington was about being practical to get things done. And there's no question, based on the institutions that he set up, he got things done. But in our world, in the black world, only in our group can you be called a sellout when everything that you did was specifically for the advancement. Booker T. Washington's entrepreneurial philosophy was centered around the advancement of black people and the progress of black people.
Period. Yeah.
So, but because you have so many types of people, especially from a intellectual view, who don't know what it's like to be in business. It's like somebody trying to theorize about insurance, but you're in it, but they're trying to tell you that you're wrong.
Right.
Like at a certain point, you have to respect the people who are in the game and know what they're talking about.
Right.
And sit back and be quiet. And unfortunately, Booker T. Washington's model was working because he was securing funding from white capitalists like Carnegie and people like that, who was actually getting results for black people in the South. Because if you were living in the North like Du Bois, you enjoyed a little bit more freedom than a lot of black people in the South.
Yeah.
Black people in the South needed something different than what black people needed in the North. So Booker T. Washington was about securing that. And that's really where this argument comes from, that we have really not put to bed yet. It needs to be put to bed because I would surmise that this notion that you're a sellout because you choose to engage in wealth creation is one of the most debilitating, if not the most debilitating mind frame, I would say, that black people have, because it basically makes black people look at money as a negative thing instead of positive.
Right. I mean, that's a lot to unpack, but it's very true. But again, going back to, even like I said, my disappointment is, as of today, knowing a lot of what we know, right? And my thing would be, you would think, because of things like LLC Twitter, you would see more young guys getting into financial services. Now, let me tell you something that's crazy, right? And most people who aren't in the investment world for real don't know this. Most stockbrokers, if you're 30 on Wall Street and you're just a stockbroker, you're old. Now, if you're 32 on Wall Street and you're talking about hedge funds, they say you have Similac behind your ears because you only put in 10, 15 years of time as a stockbroker. Because as a stockbroker, most of these guys are fresh out of college, fresh out of high school. You know, they're WASPs, right? White Anglo-Saxon Protestant young men who have connections. And you don't get the job as a stockbroker from going to Indeed or Monster. Shit, you'll barely get it from LinkedIn, but you'll probably get it there now. But you got to go to the dirty places to get those jobs. You got to go on Craigslist to get the stockbroker jobs, because that's where they all are. And these are kids who are in their early 20s. Now, what ends up happening is, in our community, we look at somebody we're like, oh, what do you know about money, kid? Not knowing that the guy that we're trying to get with that Fidelity is 24. But it just looks different because the optics are the company, not him. Right? So more people end up worrying about, I say this, instead of killing the messenger, kill the message. And that's where people end up messing up too much. I think in terms of an overall change, like you said, we don't really need a huge change. The intelligentsia did kind of do a mess up, but also I think what occurred was the flight from the south to the north. A lot of those in the south expected those who fled to the north to come back, and I think on both ends that wasn't possible, or not possible. It wasn't a good idea. I won't say that it wasn't possible. But it would have been more detrimental for people to go back to the South to try and bring people back. Now, they did things like a lot of folks do today, which is send money home. But, if they're sending money back to Master's house, Master checking your mail anyway, so you ain't going to get them dollars. And it's not like we had MoneyGram in, 1776. But so as time goes, that's memories, thoughts, and processes that are passed down from generation to generation. I'll tell you what, I was in a blackety black space, bro. And I'm not going to say his name, but you know the person I'm talking about, who he's a Pan-Africanist. And I says to him, I was talking about life insurance. Nah, G, my grandmother told me not to mess with that life insurance stuff. What? But there's a reason why. They used to have black rates, meaning they charge black people differently than others for the simple fact that we're black. They would then do things like force low policies like final expense, which is what you see on TV now, on people. So final expense or low grade policies people would end up outliving them. So that's part of the reason why a lot of the financial institutions are not trusted by blacks. And this is also why a lot of us don't even want to try and pull together to do things like start up a credit union with I think it's $500,000 is all you need, bro. I thought it was $1 million. But most of your funds,
in the grand scheme of things, $500,000 ain't shit.
yeah. And the thing about it is, you got to remember, most of your funding is eventually, initially you're going to get outsourced funding, but most of your funding is going to come from members, right? When members deposit, right, now your coifers grow. So members start depositing, boom, boom, boom. Now your coifers grow. Now, when we want to get a mortgage, we get a mortgage, right? Because one of the major things that, again, blocked us from trusting the financial industry is redlining. And I don't just mean with real estate. They financially redlined us. Well, what do I mean by that? Simple shit. And they even do it till this day. If you go into the office, which, a lot of our folk love to go into, I got to go into the office and fill out the paperwork to apply for a mortgage with a mortgage banker. Do you know if you're black, they're going to fill out that application in black ink? Now, you would think nothing of it except for if you were Asian or if you were white or if you were Latino, they would fill out that application in blue ink. So this sends a signal to the underwriting team to scrutinize your application even more. So you may have the same credit profile, income, debt to income ratio, credit history as someone who is not your skin tone. But they automatically give you, number one, lesser credit because you're black. And then number two, because they're scrutinizing it, they're probably going to give you a lower amount and a higher rate. Go ahead.
Well, this is why somebody like Washington is so important, because his work show how important it is for us to build institutions that best reflect us. Okay? Because we can't have both of the arguments that we have, because there's really some bipolar type shit. We can't say on the one hand that we don't, want to deal with black people business wise, complain about white people, but trust white people with our money like that. Like, that's backwards. And that's because, again, like I said before, to me, this is new. Like, even with the history of redlining and stuff like that, like, a lot of that stuff is going to gain much more steam when we don't, when we lack the institutions to represent us in this particular game. And that's really where the deficit really lies, in the institutions. We got so educated, we got dumb, to be honest, because a lot of these people did a lot of these things with no bachelors, no masters, no PhD degree. They just used common sense. They understood that they were in a capitalist system, and in order to win, they had to learn how to accrue capital to make it move and work for you. See, we live in a group of people that think that the only way to get capital is to work for it. No.
Mm.
You're supposed to get capital and get capital in a way where you have disposable capital that you can use to invest in certain things that can ultimately make capital for you. So you ultimately make capital your employee, not you be an employee for capital. Like, if you have to start at the bottom, that's fine. But eventually you're supposed to move in a certain way, especially from a collective perspective, to ultimately to get capital to be your employee for you. Otherwise, we're going to just keep continuing what we always do each generation. Everybody start at ground zero with nothing and work their whole entire lives making other people rich and wealthy while we complain, while we window shop through life. Now, if a lot of black people want to live that life, hey, hats off to you. Good luck with that. I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it.
I feel you.
But the reality is that we have had people who have tried to tell us that that's not the way to go, and they weren't the most educated people in terms of curriculums, but they had what my great grandparents used to talk about a lot, which was common sense. And unfortunately, the people and this is something that a lot of black people are really going to have to consider as well. When you see black people come out here speaking on the behalf of black people, you got to see who verified them. Who did you say that that person could speak on your behalf? Because as I'm researching Booker T, like, he went before black people that were respectable when the responsibility to speak on behalf of black people was kind of foisted upon him. He didn't just say, I'm just going to do it. Like, he went to these people and like, am I saying the right things before I go out there? Like, before he gave his Atlanta Cotton Exposition speech, he ran the speech by black people to say, am I saying the right things, y'all? And it was like, yes. And it gave him more confidence to go out there to speak on black people's behalf. He didn't just get on some internet or some YouTube channel and just say, man, I'm gonna just go out here and speak on behalf of black people. Because a lot of times these people do more damage for black people than help, because they don't even know what they're talking about most of the time. They don't know what they're talking about. They just say, I'm just gonna get out here on some milk crate, and I'm just gonna get out here and I'm just gonna speak on behalf of black people when I don't really know what I'm talking about. They don't really even know how to interface within the system to even get the type of things that they think that they should be advocating for on behalf of black people. And being up in people's faces, arguing, agitating. I mean, if that worked, I mean, we did that. We've done that for 60 years. So clearly, that ain't the operable strategy. You know, we have to be, we have to have the mindset of making ourselves a respectable force. And like you said, when you first came into space, man, we got to control industries, man. And this is exactly how these brothers was thinking. Him, George Washington Carver, they were thinking about how can we dominate the black business demographic, because once slavery was over, black people became a demographic to market products to. And they said that if we can go ahead and dominate the black market, then we could take that expertise to other markets and try to dominate those markets too. We're talking about people who experienced slavery, talking about dominating markets of business. That's the mentality that a lot of these black men had coming out of the slave experience. And many of the black people that were supporting people like Booker T. Washington were ex-slaves. They were really supporting him speak on the behalf of black people in the way that he was speaking, because they lived it. And they was like, we need this. And this is why they were giving Booker T. Washington their last coins when he was going to Hampton, because they were really investing in him. That's why his entrepreneurial philosophy has always been community centric regarding black people and just the population in general. And so we keep operating with a lack slant to how we approach economics, when the reality is post-slavery it was anything but that. From 1886 to 1934, we had 134 black-owned banks that came into existence. You're talking about 23 years after slavery, black people were setting up banks that white people were coming into trying to get loans from.
Yep. Well,
So this idea that we don't understand money or we can't pull together or anything like that, no, that's for lack of a better word, that's these new niggas.
yeah.
Older black people from a previous generation, like my great grandfather's generation, who had a sixth grade education but had his own business contract with the Navy, and he had his own grocery store. They had a different mentality. They were business minded first. They were not work for somebody. Be so glad to go to school to get a degree to go work for somebody else. They was work for yourself first. They were self-reliance first, coming out of slavery.
So you know what? I think in terms of that as well, something that you mentioned that rang heavily in my ears when you were saying, the black men in them had the chutzpah, that or the coming from slavery to want to dominate markets. And overall, I don't think that's died, right? I think black men today, even these new niggas, do want to dominate markets, but unfortunately, we all go into the same market, right? And then we don't go into it simultaneously. Like, for example, in 2017, 31,000 Sikh men entered the trucking industry. That wasn't just 31,000 individuals. I'm sure 1 to 5,000 of them came together and started one particular company. Right? You don't get just 31,000 of something that niche or specific going into a certain field for no reason, right? So I think that is there. I think we just often look at the wrong industries. Now, when I say the wrong industries, there is no wrong industry except for when you lock yourself out of multitudes of industries and lock yourself into certain industries. We've got 10,000 chicken spots. I don't need another turkey leg hut. I don't need another, get your burgers and fries here. I don't want your chicken tenders. We got it. We've got enough hair salons and barbershops. I can go get my hair fried, dyed, and laid to the side on every other corner in just about every majorly black city. Right? Now, one thing we actually do have quite a bit of is funeral homes. Great thing to get into because funerals, death is a recession-proof business. But seeing as we know death is a recession-proof business, life insurance should probably be on all of our radars. But let me get back to my original point. You know, I'm Glengarry Glen Ross, always be closing. But you know, we have to get into certain industries, and as much as we hear people talking about, oh, I'm this, that, and the third, and you know, I'm your crypto, this, that, and the third. 6.7% of licensed financial professionals are Black. So somebody's missing the boat. Now, here's the thing. I was talking to one of the guys who's a barber, and he was like, yeah, man, it costs us like 20 grand to go get our barber's license. I'm like, wow, it's nowhere near that much to get your securities licenses and insurance license. And I am not trying to brag, but I can, in one transaction, make more than all of your the whole staff makes in a month. And this is not some slouch shop. And again, I'm not trying to piss on nobody, but why don't we get into these fields? Especially since Alonzo Herndon got into it. Barber, realtor, insurance. And the insurance is that last part. I think what it is that's an aspect that, right? I mean, not only is it difficult to understand and learn, but you also have to have good teachers. And unfortunately, for so long, the white man's ice has been colder. So we've been apt to listen to them about even getting into these forays. I'll give you an example. 2013, I had left Mutual of Omaha and I went into an independent brokerage called the Deep Pile of Financial Group. Whilst I was there, my sales manager was like, hey, what's your sales strategy? I was like, well, I want to start selling annuities. He says to me, oh, no, annuities suck. They only pay 4%. You don't want annuities. And I'm like, okay. And then later that day, I see a commission slip from the office for what they've done for the month. This dude was pulling 25 grand a month selling annuities. All you got to do to make 25 grand, literally, is sell one annuity, depending on the size. And you'll make 25 grand. So, you know, this is the type of stuff that we can be doing, right? So the average annuity pouring is 50 grand. At 4%, that's $2,000. So you mean to tell me you can't sit at the table with your grandma, grandpa, and say, hey, listen, let's roll over your 401k. You're leaving that job. Let me help you out. And boom. So we can all start to learn these conversations. But again, you have people in places who don't want us to learn it, but it's on us to actually say, fuck that and learn it. Right? Yes, a lot of the shit I talk about is boring as fees up until you start seeing them numbers. For those who have not sat with me on an insurance advisory appointment, one thing you'll know is that you've never sat with somebody who's presented you a life insurance illustration, or what you may call quote, and said to him at the end of the day, can I put more money in there? I promise you. And if you have, in fact, if you have, come up right now. Oh, hold on. Let me, because if somebody has had that situation, I want to know about it. And what made you ask to put more money in the insurance policy? Because that's the problem I have when I sit with clients, is they go, wait, can I put more money in? Why? Because the way I set it up. I'll be right back. Right? But the way that these policies are set up in a manner that they're cash rich and they're robust. And what happens is it's explaining the financial concepts to you, which is what Rael is talking about. We are definitely, as a people, familiar with pulling our money together, especially like you said, the older niggas. A lot of these new niggas, I gotta agree with you. But unfortunately, in these new niggas is niggas in our generations. Because a lot of these niggas in our generation was too busy trying to be Wu-Tang Clan, right? And we was shitting on ourselves trying to dominate instead of working together. And
Well, that's the beautiful thing about um, Washington's National Negro Business League.
yeah.
One of the things that he refused to allow to be discussed in the organization was politics because he knew how much politics could break people apart. And he wanted, and he talked about how, there are many other black organizations that's focused on politics. If you want to talk about it, join those. But his main focus in the National Negro Business League was to be focused on business and industry. How can we as black men get out here and compete? Because again, people need to understand his framework for setting up Tuskegee. Tuskegee was not just a place for black men to go to be taught trades. A lot of people think that, but that's not true. His ultimate goal was for black men to enter in Tuskegee, learn trades, and ultimately become so competitive and good at what they did for their trades to be able to start businesses through their trades. Tuskegee was it was set up functional wise um, for trades, but the overall goal was to get black men to do business with those trades. Because many men end up doing that. Men will go to trade school and they'll become a plumber, and then they'll work and make money, and then eventually they might branch off and start their own business as a plumber and or electrician or things like that. This is how many black men were able to start businesses. They actually got into the trades and were able to push that trade into a business endeavor and became successful at it. And so when you look at it from that particular perspective, like Tuskegee wasn't just a trade school. Tuskegee was a business/trade school. The ultimate goal was to get black men in business, and you can't underestimate how powerful that was, particularly for that time. To have black men coming out of the slave experience, going to a trade school while at the same time being taught business principles is something that you have to just really tip your hat, man, to Booker T. Washington and his vision and his foresight, because he knew exactly what black men needed. He actually delivered the kind of institutions that black men needed for that particular time. Unfortunately, from that particular time, a lot of black men have just dropped the ball because too many black men have been turned off. Because it's funny how many black males in these spaces will talk about respect blue collar men, but at the same time, those same men don't have any respect for Booker T. Washington, who was blue collar in his outlook, which is why Marcus Garvey wanted to meet him and wanted to emulate his blueprint for Jamaica, doing the same type of things in terms of building his own version of Tuskegee in Jamaica for Jamaican men.
Right. I mean, like you said, bro, there's again, with a lot to unpack. I think it goes back a lot and a little bit to the book excuse me, family wealth transition planning. And I think where the ball dropped was something that you mention often. Family is business and business is family. And
Right.
I think if we look at it like most Americans do, right? Which is like they fall in love with the mafia. Well, the mafia is very much families, the crime families, right? A lot of these guys will whack their own brother for the guy that's not their blood, but it's for the greater good of the family.
Right. See, Godfather, I mean, here with Fredo, Michael knocked off Fredo.
So, you know.
Yeah. Well,
But,
see,
oh,
but
go
see,
ahead.
but see, the thing is that every day that every black man wakes up to, and I'm being serious,
Okay.
every day that a black man wakes up to, he should ask himself one specific question: how can I solve my family? And I'm not talking about the people you related to. I'm talking about who you deem as your family. How do I solve my family's money issues or problems? Every day. Because that's where your focus should be: productivity. And so, even when it relates to politics, like your money should be going to people in a way where you can lobby on behalf of the interest, your business interest. Politics without business interest is just, um, it's like high school picking who's the most popular.
Yeah. Well, you see how I just mentioned in the middle of the article. Oh, Biden, he's putting a couple of regulations on insurance. I don't know that I like that. Right?
Right.
Somebody's definitely gonna come with a super PAC because my industry, insurance, you think investment industry is bad. Insurance got deep pockets. And when we lobby, right? That Occupy Wall Street, the insurance companies were fine because nobody considers insurance Wall Street-ish. But
Right.
let me tell you, every insurance company has their money in investments. They have an investment arm. They have a broker dealer.
Look, I remember very, very clearly back in like 2010 when Congress was debating stopping people from, because at this particular time the economy crashed. So you had a lot of older people who had life insurance policies that they were willing to sell. And there was a little bit of chatter, I think, in the Senate about whether they should make that against the law. That talk came and went real fast because they didn't stop it. They did not stop it because it's what got
Yeah.
my attention. It's what made me look at insurance in the first place. Like that's what got my attention in insurance. And you see these companies out here, I think like your JG Wentworths and companies,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they still here. So they never passed anything against it. So because if you're 65, you got a life insurance policy for 3, 4, 500K. You don't expect to live that long. You just, you know, or maybe higher. And you're like, okay, well, I'll just sell my policy and get some money.
Mm-hmm.
And I get 150 grand. And then, when I die, this person they get 700,000. Now, that might make your kid mad, but hey, your kid is young. They can figure some shit out.
Yeah.
So, but you at the end of your life, you have to make certain decisions that's best for you. And so many of those people, they say, man, F it, man. Hey, sell it, and they're able to live in comfort, because I mean, at that point of your life, that's really what you're trying to have is comfort. And they'll sell the policy. So, but like you said, like they gonna you talk about any major changes that's gonna mess with money in the insurance industry. You best believe there's gonna be some people on Capitol Hill, boy. Like,
Yeah,
they ain't gonna be
I
playing
saw
with you. They
that
gonna be
thing.
like,
That better not happen, bro. Like that, and I ain't got no power in the world when it comes to these laws, right? But trust me, I'm not the only one who's looking at it like, yo, that better not happen. Nuck if you buck, because
for real.
there's people with some power in this industry who, when they see that later today, are gonna be like, what?
If you responded like you did, you best believe they're gonna be like, oh hell no.
they definitely gonna be like, listen, man, that like I said, lobbyists are gonna be on that because that's too much regulation on. They're already imposing and passed some regulations that we're probably gonna fight because we already fought them in New York and got it overturned. But now they're appealing it, so it's overturned because they're appealing it, but they're gonna lose because we're going to fight against even the Department of Financial Services, and we got more money than the Department of Financial Services. Mm-hmm. So we going to pay for them big lawyers. But yeah, man, that shit, these... So in the overall scheme of things, yes, there are a bunch of lobbyists who are going to come out against a lot of this stuff, even the $400,000, right? But I don't know if you were here earlier when you saw I was talking about the guy from Edward Jones who got fired for text messages. Mm-hmm. So the heavy regulation in this shit is like, we don't want that in insurance, right? And like I said, these companies got deep pockets. Bro, insurance companies have been paying dividends since the 1800s, right? So 1890 or 1886, 1880, 1890, 1900, 1910, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 2000, 10, 20. And they've been paying dividends, right? No investment only company can say that.
No, absolutely not.
Only insurance companies can say that.
Wow.
Right? Now, yes, they don't pay huge dividends, and the reason for that is that's kind of how they make their dividend.
Man, let me tell you something, bro.
Uh-huh.
I got invited to a casino night from one of my former coworkers back in actually it was 2000. And I came across this game. I cannot remember the game. It was such a fun game. But I'm telling you, without a doubt, when I would build my money slowly, man, I was getting paid. Mm-hmm. But every time I tried to roll big, I lost every single time.
Damn.
I lost every single time. When I got my money at a high level, I said, man, I'm about to get this. Every time I tried to go big, it didn't work. And that's how I look at, like the lane you in. If you build it strategically, slowly, what you ultimately are going to find that over time, if you do it right, it can generate really fast. It's just that you got to get the ball rolling first.
Right.
But it will get speed, Now, the stock market might be sexier, you know what I'm saying? But there's so much volatility in it that it's like, it's like if you don't have the money to lose in it, do you really want to play the game?
No.
You
And I think that's another issue with our people. So here's another issue besides the financial redlining, right? Because we ended up blocked out, and like you said, when somebody is in particularly my lane, it's some white people shit. Now, if I'm a nigga selling real estate, that's cool, but
right,
that's because that's something I can touch. Even though most people can't afford the real estate that your homeboy is selling either, right?
right,
But at least it's something I could physically see and be like, oh, I went to go see this house. Yeah, he doing his thing. But real estate, to be honest, leaves people generally more messed up than not.
right, exactly.
Right? No doubt. What's going on? What's happening, Spawn? Because most people do not leave the funds for people to fully pay off the house. Number
Mm-hmm.
one. Number two, do you know the average age of the home? The average age of a first time home buyer is 52. Now, if you go to Google right now, I think they have it brought down to like 37, but that's due to this recent phenomenon, like the last decade of these, fucking kids off of YouTube getting bazillions of dollars, right? So now you got kids who are like 14 buying houses,
Mm-hmm.
but for the most part, because even still, if the average age is 37, that's still, over what most people are like. Oh, by the time I hit 30, I should have this, that, and the third. No. The
Mm-hmm.
average first time home buyer is 52. If a mortgage is 30 years, that's a 30-year commitment. Most people then refinance in their first 7 to 10 years, 7 to 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you wait 12 years. So you pay in this loan from 52 to 64. 64, you about to retire, you refinance for a lower monthly payment. Broke genius, what's going on?
I just
I don't know if you're saying so. Okay, go ahead.
I just saw y'all was live and I'm just listening.
Okay, no doubt. I'm gonna finish up and then I'll let you go. So 64, you restarting the loan. That's another 30-year commitment. So now you're hoping you live till 94 to actually pay it off free and clear. God forbid you ever miss one payment. It's the end of the world. But what's going on, bro genius? How you?
I'm good. I'm good. So you guys were talking about real estate. So yeah, I don't know where you guys were on the tail end of the conversation, but um they're going through there's it's I'm noticing a lot of in the Chicago, well, Cook County is pretty much the Chicagoland area. So it covers Chicago and the suburbs from the north, south, and west.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm noticing houses that were put on the market back in 2022, and they were really high, and they were trying to get a high sale point, and they're being relisted a couple times for a lower and lower price. People ain't going, and the Fed Chairman Powell just
Yeah.
came on and shook the markets today. Um, the interest rate is higher, I think, as far as the average loan. I think they're saying is like 7%.
8.9.
Okay, yeah, and that's if you got good credit, you know.
Yeah, I think it's
Uh,
8.7%. I'm sorry.
yeah. So it's really kind of retreating people to that were probably looking to buy. Um, and it's like, I'm thinking, okay, this is something to talk about because now people that's got these houses is going into buyer's market. It was a seller's market. Back in was like 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So now you see a reverse trend to going back to a seller's market. And if you guys know, if you didn't know, in 2008 when everything crashed, if you had money, you're going to be an automatic millionaire because it turned into a wholesalers market,
Mm.
meaning that people can't even. sell the house, no matter even if it was people that were trying to buy. People were just trying to get rid of the properties because banks was holding on to properties. My uncle got a bank owned property um from basically that a little bit after that time from my homie I grew up with. He lost his house because he got laid off. Um so basically what typically happens, and this you definitely support the channel. I mean, I'm about to give away at least $100,000 worth of game right here. When things go into a buyer's market, if it doesn't stay that way, which it traditionally doesn't, it goes into reverse to a seller's market. And then when things get really, really bad, and people still can't sell a house for whatever reason, it goes into a wholesale market. That means that that house that, like for example, the house I'm in right now is over 100 years old. It was at one time for sale for $100,000. Um, yeah, person that I bought it from bought it for the tax sale for like $500, and I bought it for 10. So I mean, it's worth more than that now, but that's kind of how things go when it gets really, really bad. It goes into where you could buy two houses for the price of one, or even three. So yeah, if anything, like when it gets to a point where the interest rates are really high and it's kind of almost not affordable to get a house, a mortgage, you could do creative financing where you could do like a seller financing deal. If you got the money to kind of hold on to a 10-year note, and you could pay the house off, it just be a conditional statement of agreement that you basically pay a monthly payment, you have a down payment that you give to the seller. A lawyer could draw it up. Any lawyer, real estate lawyer, they already know how to draft seller financing contracts. It's been going on for since your grandparents been alive and even older than them. And this is kind of what I see where it's going to go back to, where people gonna have to get creative to sell a house because everybody ain't gonna be able to sell a house traditionally. It's always gonna be other avenues that people have to kind of do a rent to own, or even because once you're a real estate agent, Lonzo, what happens when a person is trying to list their house and they can't sell it? What do they traditionally have to do? They have to rent the house, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of times people might not be able to even do that. What if a person that's their only house? They can't they can't rent their house out, live in their car. That wouldn't be fun. So somebody might have to do some other things, like, and then you goes into even more advanced, which I've never done, but it's called a subject to arrangement, to where the person has a mortgage on the property, but somebody takes agreement to assume the property, pay for the mortgage. They possibly could do a refinance. They do that. That also could be written according to your state. It's state by state laws and stuff like that. But any real estate attorney, like I say, knows about these things, and these are the things that like people they know how to do, and they get rich because not every state has wholesaling property as well. I mean, wholesaling is legal in a lot of states, but some states like Illinois, it's illegal to do wholesale. Because basically,
Really?
yeah, your the billionaire trust fund baby outlawed it in I think 2018. JB Pritzker. So yeah, he made it because cats was getting like, I mean, it was some shady cats that was like doing bogus contracts and scamming people and stuff like that. But cats was like literally getting rich off wholesaling. Um because like yeah, wholesaling is just if nobody knows, it's kind of like an old school real estate agent, but you're not a real
Wow,
estate
wow,
agent.
wow.
You just a gangster real estate agent basically. It's like, hey, you got this house for sale. All right, I can help you sell it. I can find somebody that's a real estate investor, draw up a contract, meet at the closing table at a title company, and then I get my advance and I sell the property to this guy. And it's like, real estate agents don't like that. I'm sure you don't like that as well. Like some
Yeah,
niggas.
I definitely don't like wholesaling, to be honest.
Yeah, 'cause I know. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like I go through real estate school. I pay for everything to get my broker's license and sweat balls trying to pass the test. And then some nigga out the projects just, with a felony, just get a damn dude to just sign off on a contract and just sell a property and make probably even more commission than I would at my 3.5 or whatever the commission rate is for a property. It's like what the fuck, And that's not something that a lot of real estate attorneys like. But there are situations where a real estate attorney can get a cut of a particular contract, and that's
Real
what.
estate attorney always gets a cut.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And y'all could just do a JV deal to where you both go 50-50 on a deal, and you get more of a commission than what the standard rate would be. Because if a property is sold, like for example, 150,000, wholesaler offers to give the seller 125, you make a 25 profit. You got a nice little chunk of change, both of y'all, for just transacting the deal that might have took like a week or two. Um, versus a 3.5 commission off of a sale. Um, might not net that much. So yeah, it just I'm just a forewarning as far as what I see in my local market. I don't know what it is in you guys' market, but
Well, let me ask you something actually. Now that I think about it, because back in 2017, and this is probably, I had a buddy of mine who was a broker out in the Chicagoland area. And he was like, yo, man, I need you to come to Chicago now. It's 23 miles of waterfront property that's just waiting to get dealt with. I'm sure by now it's been dealt with. Uh, but I'm assuming that's part of the location where people were just getting rich.
what was this, the south side or north side?
I'm not sure. He just said it's 23 miles worth of waterfront property.
Was he a black dude or a white dude?
Black.
Probably the south side. He's probably talking about. No, I'm just keeping it real, man. Um, I mean, most likely, if I was a bed man, I'd put $50 at least. It was a black guy. It was a south side. It was a South Shore. So you got the North Shore and the South Shore. So Lake Michigan waterfront properties are on the North Shore and then the South Shore. South Shore obviously does not go as much because of obvious historical reasons in this country, racial uh, color lines and stuff like that. It mostly black people live on the South Shore. There is a historical play that a lot of white folks do know about. I know about as well, because one thing about waterfront property, they don't make enough of it, and it ain't like they make it every day. So, once things get really, really developed as they are on the North Shore, they like, okay, well, we need more of this. So let's start kicking these cats up out of here, and move toward the South Shore. And actually, the South Shore is underdeveloped as well, because a lot of people don't know the South Shore going towards Indiana on Lake Michigan, off Lake Michigan, has a lot of industrial, where it's kind of like Badlands, because I mean, we put the niggas, you know, near the near the
And
waste
near the
dumps.
bad stuff.
So, I mean, it's like basically a lot of the South Shore is underdeveloped. Just to kind of give you the skinny, um Jesse Jackson's son that got ousted on some like weird, kind of like bipolar sexual stuff. He got divorced from his wife. She was a local alderman that I think got to be a representative herself, or think she was an alderman. I'm not sure how she got up. It's a long time ago. It's kind of hazy, but they were like a power couple. She's fine. She was a you want to talk about a 92 octane that's a fox. She definitely was. I wonder how she fared after that. But yeah, she was trying to develop something on the South Shore to annex some land to for development. Um, I I haven't been over there in a minute, but I know a chick I used to work with. She got a condo over there. Um, as far as like what it's doing now. I mean, I think it's probably still at a standstill, but it's definitely like a two, I would say a 20-year kind of like plan that definitely is involved with that particular area. And that area stretches from about 20th Street going all the way towards uh the northwest Indiana area on Lake Michigan. So yeah, and then you got the Obama Library that they're building now. So that's amping things up. But the a lot of the white developers already got their hedges bet already in that area. So if you ain't did nothing 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you kind of like trying to kind of late to the party kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
B Nizzle, what's going on, bro? Well, nah, definitely, man. I think after you, boss. I'm hopping on the elevator, but that's why you see two screens because I had to go take
Oh,
me a quick walk.
oh yeah.
Um, so if y'all lose me on this, don't worry, I'll be back up. But I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that's ironically enough going crazy with you know even in the real estate markets, right? But what I was talking about in terms of real estate was generational wealth, and how, like the average American needs $1 million death benefit because the average income is $1 million, and one generation is at least 20 years. So, you know, in terms of real estate, however, I was talking about how unfortunately a lot of Black folks leave our families, even though it's good, thank you, boss, to get real estate, we leave our families in dire straits because we tend to do things like just get a mortgage, right? And like I said, the average first time home buyer is age 52. You're committing yourself to a 30-year payment that you're going to restart inside of the first 7 to 10 years, right? So stuff ends up, um, I don't know, kind of bookending itself. So I
Mhm.
guess I want to ask both of you um, your opinion on, um, and I guess I'll start with Ron because you just came up here, Broke Genius.
Okay.
But what are your thoughts or opinions on moving forward, even with the lack of working together, etc. Who, what, when, where, how, or why can we change this? And what's our outlook on, because right now future looks bleak, right? Black America is going to be net worth of zero by 2050. So you know what do you think uh can be done or should we do to try and change some things? And I'll start with you, Ron. All right, he might have went to go get a sandwich. So
Okay.
so
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and let you go, bro.
Yeah. So with that being said, like yeah, the $1 million policy. Well, I remember the first time I heard somebody say they had a $1 million policy. It was a friend of a friend. that his dad he used to work for like I think he was a CTA bus driver, and like yeah he had $1 million policy, and he kind of said was like he kind of what he said about it was like, you know, because I have a policy so high, you know, when something happened, it kind of check on me a little bit better, because if they got to pay me out, they got to pay me out a nice little chunk of money versus the average person. I mean, he probably I would say somebody probably have $1 million policy, especially if they African American, probably have 10 times what the average as far as death benefit would be. I don't know, maybe even 100 times. Um, because I remember my grandfather, he used to sell policies, but he used to sell like, you know, basically burial policies that were like 10,000 that anybody can kind of get with a pulse um and eyeballs. So yeah, I mean, a million is definitely I would say is a pretty decent policy. Mortgages, I you know what, that's why I laughed when you said 50 some years old was the average age of a mortgage holder. I did not know that. I mean,
Well,
yeah.
no, that's that. So it's 52 is the
Oh,
the 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 average age. So what you're saying is at 52 you're committing to a 30-year payment, right? So
right.
you're saying that I'm committing to paying this thing for the next 30 years.
Mhm. Yeah, I
And
did not
then
know
if yeah, and then if something happens, I and this is where I look at the generational wealth issue, because then if something happens without like the $1 million life insurance, imagine something happens, and especially with black folk, the average black men life expectancy is age 68. So if you buy your house at 52 on average and you refinance in the first 12 years, so you restart the loan. So let's say the house is 250,000. You've been paying for it for 12 years. Year 12, you refinance to get a lower monthly payment, right?
that.
And then with that lower monthly payment, you still restarted the loan.
Right,
So you restarted your commitment for 30 years.
right,
And then unfortunately, generally something happens because now you're 68 and you're assuming you're going to live to 100, right?
right, right.
And or 64 and you're assuming you're going to live to 95, whatever it is, 30 years from 62
Yeah,
or whatever I said, right?
yeah,
But and don't get me wrong, people make it there, but then at that age, you're also in your regression years because you're looking towards retirement.
right.
Nobody wants to work at 68, 70 years old,
Uh, yeah.
right?
The mortgage play. I was taught the mortgage play by a guy that he was his best friend. He raced yachts with one of his best friends, which was Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle. He gave me the mortgage play that this is $1 million worth of game right here. So he said, well, how I met him was basically he's actually at the time was a mortgage writer. My mother was trying to get a house. I ultimately helped her get her house, her last house, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But uh, he gave me to play how you should do it is like the best scenario is you get you a house that you can you definitely get the 30-year mortgage, but you know you absolutely can pay the house off in 10 years. So, you know, that's where I came up with my 1.5 rule, where you just get a house based off of how much your salary is. You could even include your wife if you're married. You combine your combined salary plus half. So if both you and your wife make $200,000 a year, you can afford to get a property that's like maybe 300,000 max. If you single and you only make 50K, you really should shoot for about 85 to 80,000 to 100 tops for as far as a house. I know if you live in certain areas, that's almost nearly impossible. But he basically said, um, you should get a house that you can afford to. I don't care if you have to collect cans, you could pay your mortgage off. Avoid you to lose your house in the foreclosure, be able to avoid being house poor, and then pay instead of paying the 30-year, you work out a situation where you paying your mortgage at least twice as many payments than the normal one payment. Uh, and you pay your house off sooner instead of at least 30 years, you pay it off within 15 or 5 or 10 if you really kicking ass. And that way, you pay the house off, own the house, you got the deed and title, and then you move on to whatever you want to do in your life. Most people, what they do, they get the overpriced house, the biggest house they could get, can barely pay for it, can barely pay the mortgage, definitely ain't paying triple payments and double payments, and even single payments is a burden, right? And they end up just really, to be honest, just passing it like a hot potato by selling it, then moving on to the next house if they're lucky. Um, really dire, end up losing it in a foreclosure, which foreclosure filings are up um, at the present time, and they're probably going to continue to go up. Um, so yeah, that's $1 million worth of game right there. You probably already heard it a little bit, but I broke it down even better.
No, I'm loving that, bro. I love the way you broke that down. I
Cause,
think
cause, yeah,
go ahead.
cause things is like this, right? A cat. It goes back to cars. A cat will get they'll get a Bentley or a brand new BMW AMG, not AMG, um, M3 that's like over 100 grand, and they'll get what's the max car note? Is it 72 months or what they giving out like max now?
84.
Okay, they'll get the 84 joint and they'll pay that monthly payment, be like, $1,000 a month to $800 a month, and they'll actually pay the car. They'll actually after about 8 years, they work a good job or whatever. They work at a firehouse or they maybe a police officer or whatever. They'll pay that car off, and that car is like over 100 grand, and then with the interest and everything, uh, they'll pay a total payments with interest and everything like almost like 150 grand for this car, or at least 130. And it's like like I say, in the Midwest, that's a move-in ready B grade house. In the
What?
Midwest. Yes, sir.
Man,
I can
listen,
share my screen and show you. Like,
bro. We, me and my wife. Let me see if I can. We went for a house in Brooklyn.
hmm
Fucking $900,000 shits, man. These,
yeah, yeah.
I wish.
In Gary, Indiana, you can get a brand new house, move in ready. I mean, brand new everything, floors, appliances, stainless steel, marble countertops, the whole nine, right? For less than 70 grand cash right now. And that's like lowest of the lowest. I mean, you definitely do have to deal with the good and bad of Gary, Indiana, but that's just to just kind of put things on a low spectrum. On the highest, I heard you 900,000. Okay, on the highest, like you can live in an upper middle class neighborhood in Cook County, mixed community for less than $400,000. Really, to be
What?
honest, $300,000.
Yo,
Okay,
hold on. Let me see something. Let me see if I can pull this up
New
here.
York, New York is the number one market in the country and one of the biggest in the world. It's It's designed. It's called New York. It's supposed to mirror. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to mirror London, which London is the capital of the world as far as markets.
So
Um,
this is a house that I put in the offer on, right?
hmm
799. Was putting
Wow.
down 30,000 for the down payment,
Damn.
and 77 was the rest.
Right.
There's me, my wife, my father, my wife, right?
Yeah.
Fucking, are you kidding? And this was in the hood, bro.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
This was in
So
the hood in
so
East
my
New York.
my ex-wife, her father, I mean grandfather is a jazz musician. Um he passed away. He was a well-known jazz musician. I was actually used to listen to him when I used to listen to jazz. Like I sometimes I gotta remind myself to listen to jazz on a local radio station. And come to find out years later, I was I was making his granddaughter,
Oh
and,
shit.
and come to find out, he he had a house in like down the street from my grandmother, um and then basically he also his sister like live I think like across the street, and this is like this neighborhood where my grandmother and them are at. It's like I mean, kind of like near Peel Hill in Chicago.
Okay.
And these houses are less than 300 grand, about 250 right now, about a quarter million now because of the prices. Um, my uncle got one for 40 in 2014. And it's worth like about yeah about a quarter million right now because of the prices jacked up. And these are like what is called brick ranches.
Damn.
You ever heard you have it was a song, it was a hit song called I Want a Devil Ranch, or Rolling in a Devil Ranch. Well, that's what he was talking about. Like
Mm.
basically a brick house that's a ranch. Now, I say all of that to say that he had one of those, but he lived in a condo in New York. My ex-wife's grandfather. Um, so he lived in both Chicago when he was living, and then he would travel back from New York to his condo, back to Chicago. Dude was balling. I mean,
Mm.
um, I give his name. His name was Richard Abrams. So, like, I mean,
Um, do you have any relation to a gentleman by the name of Lawan?
no, my last name is with the Ni.
No, no, no. Like okay.
Yeah, no,
I'm
it's
because I'm connected with this
Lawani is
dude.
like in Nigeria or West Africa. It's like it's like a white person Smith. There's a
Okay.
lot of people with that name. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Uh, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's with an Ni, like kind of like Italian, like Pellegrini,
Okay.
fettuccine, linguine. Like I think it's something to do like yeah, I talked to I passed the Italian embassy one time. I was downtown. I was talking to him. I was like, my last name is got an Ni on it, and the dude was kind of uncomfortable. I can tell. I'm like, nigga, I'm your daddy, motherfucker. But I haven't researched none of that.
Alright.
I definitely it's definitely strong links between Africans and Italians and Sicilians.
Yeah.
Some the slave trade as well has something to do with. That's what a Nigerian told me. But yeah, I just I say all of that to say that I kind of gave you a little kind of under like kind of a little play there, but you ain't notice it by me just telling you that story. But yeah, it's nothing, fam. 50 grand
Well, no,
you
you
could
gave me a play. I'm listening,
yeah,
but I don't know if I could.
you can get a house, you can get a decent house even in Cook County. It's a fixer upper for like 50 grand, and it might you might commit uh 30 grand and fix it up over 2 years and Airbnb it or rent it out or whatever.
Yeah. See, that's another thing. I'm about to close out in a second, but that's another thing. When it's see, man, you got me back in my real estate bug itching, but that's my problem right there. Is that if I was to do real estate, it has to be in New York and New York City specifically. Like I can't do these 80, $100,000 houses. Like those are commission numbers. You know what I'm saying?
It's a dude I listen to right now in the Own Your Leisure account. He's
Mhm.
called MG the Mortgage Guy.
I know him.
He's entrenched in Chicago, and
Yeah.
he's based out of New York. Um, I mean, dude is a baller, man. He sells mortgages like he's on the block. You
You
know what
know
I'm
what's
saying?
crazy? He had his homeboy on the other day talking about life insurance, and I kind of went in there and blew their mind. I was like, "Oh, can you have your man's touch briefly on alert and on this concept?" He was like, "Whoa!" I said, "Listen, when you clip this up, make sure you shout me out. Here's my channel." You know
Mm.
what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, yeah, I'll be on there. I'll be in the chat, man.
word.
But I'm leery of mortgages because I know what it means. So I don't
Payment
play
till death.
around. I don't play around with them. Like I say that story with the guy that yacht race with Larry Ellison of Oracle. Um, that's the play if I could help it. But we the mind wants nice things, and you want something nice. So I mean, I get it. You get the house that you really want. Um, and you know what I'm saying? It's like it's kind of a setup because if you don't have the income to pay for it, uh, it's a possibility that you're gonna have to do something, sell it real fast, or rent it out to just be able to survive. But
Fact.
yeah, I wish you the best of luck though. I hope you close on a good offer. And yeah, man. Appreciate the insight. That's crazy. I mean, y'all like. I mean, dude, you could buy two mansions. No, you could buy a mansion in like another house in the Chicagoland area with that price. Like that's that's wild. The price.
And bro,
Yeah.
that shit was in the hood.
Oh, that's the hood too. Like that's
Yeah.
capitalism on
Who
steroids.
said, "Oh, that's the hood"? Yeah, no, that's not a nice neighborhood, bro. I mean, don't see. Here's the thing
Is
about
it
New
a
York.
fixer upper too, or?
Nah, 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 nah. It's newly renovated,
Oh, okay.
but uh, the reason it's that price is because it's in the hood, right?
Hmm.
I wonder. I don't know if I still have the video on my YouTube, but I did that's how I started my YouTube because I was doing walkthroughs of the properties that I had listed.
Hmm.
Says I bought my first home in 19 at 80K, a townhome, and the second home was a John Wayland home that was 300K, a 9 bedroom in the Gwinnett County area on the outskirts of Atlanta. So I learned my lesson. Wow. Oh, and he got a designer home. Actually, I want to speak to you too, Qualfie. I'm gonna try and connect you and my man's who does the bespoke couture in Atlanta. And ironically enough, his wife is a realtor in the Atlanta area. Um, but yeah, man, I'm looking at that Chicagoland, but we look at New York and we think the thing about New York is
Hmm.
it's the concrete jungle. Like it all looks the same, right? So
Hmm.
like a selling point in New York City would be like tree lined block, which is not what you think of when you think of a tree lined block outside of New York City, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
it's it's
Hmm.
it's crazy, right? You
It's
think the tree
yeah,
lined block, you think, oh, so there's trees all up in that. No, there everybody got a tree in front of their house. That's the
yeah,
tree lined block, right? That's
yeah. Shout out to Nino. Yeah, I saw a video. I watched a ton of videos, and they said they looked at a poor neighborhood versus a rich neighborhood, And one of the differences was the landscape, the trees. Like they had abundance of trees outside, and a lot of the rich neighborhoods they had a lot of treescapes that they were surrounded by. So yeah, that's interesting, but that ain't really true because like I'm looking outside my window now. I'm in Gary. I got a fucking Christmas tree, an evergreen tree, a large evergreen tree. I'm surrounded by trees, so they ain't necessarily all the way 100% true on that. So, but yeah, I mean that's there's some other stuff too, but yeah, yeah, I mean shit, like it's I mean, you got Gary got Miller Beach too. Like Gary is like a mini Chicago. So you got the north side by the shoreline of Gary is called Miller Beach. Now that's where the elite live. Like
I was about to say that's where your Pacers and your Colts
yeah,
live.
yeah. It's a guy that was a news reporter that he was in like WGN News. He lived there and commuted back and forth from Chicago to that house because it's like stones throw away from the beach. Like you can walk to the beach. It's this affluent area of Gary, so it's not all city and stuff like that. The Gary is very weird. To explain it, it's a lot of nuances involved because you literally got utter poverty to affluence as well. I mean, Alan Roger Curry lived on Miller Beach. He didn't live in the greater Gary area. He lived in Miller Beach.
Okay.
So yeah, but I'm gonna let you go. Sound like you got some food to eat or something. Congratulations on the offer. I think they're gonna take it. If it's anything
Man,
like
listen, we got so much stuff out there, bro. This is old stuff because we decided against it, right? I just
okay.
still have the offer sheets. I keep my stuff for a number of years.
Okay.
That wasn't bro. Though that was one of the lower property. One of the properties was going for was 1.25 million. Right? I negotiated them down to 925,000.
Okay.
But these aren't single family homes, by the way.
These are condos or apartments?
No, these are multifamily, so they might be 2 or 3 family. Most of them are 2 family if they're under $1 million.
Oh, okay. So
Right?
you would be house hacking technically, like living in one and then being a renter to the other 2 or 3, or
So that's not actually house hacking. So house hacking, what they call it is SRO or single room occupancy, right? Where you basically you rent out rooms for rent.
Oh, okay.
One way of house hacking. Another way of house hacking, here's another $1 million worth of game. And thank you for that narratives, Coffee. So another way of house hacking is if you get a multifamily, it depends on the state that you're in. Because like I don't know, in like for example in the Chicagoland area or in the like Indianapolis area, they're probably are they more attics or are they basement?
Oh, they got basements.
Okay. So now are the basements like
Well, actually both. It depends on the house.
okay. With the basements, are you able to make those livable or are they not
Yeah.
that kind of
Oh
basement
yeah.
layout?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So here's how you house hack. You buy a property. When you're going for that property, when you're going for the mortgage loan originator is going to consider 75% of the rent into your income. So if they pay $1,000, if the local rents are $1,000 a month, that's an additional $12,000 a year they add to your income. Well, 75% of that. So what, $8,500 or something like that a year to your income. Then now you know what the rents are. So you say, okay, I'm gonna thug it out for 3 to 5 years and live in the basement, right? No, it's not the 3-bedroom unit or the 2-bedroom with yes, I basically got a studio apartment, but I'm gonna thug it out for 3 to 5 years, and I'm gonna let these 2 tenants pay my mortgage. What I would pay on the mortgage, generally you would put into a life insurance policy. So then you could use your life insurance policy as a collateral assignment. But
Mhm.
that's even more game. I'll talk about that at a later time.
You got my eyes popping because I got a basement door. I can totally finish my basement and just rent that joker out. And
No. You can't legally rent the basement to someone who is not your family. At least, again, it depends on the state. I know in New York.
I
Uh,
done got caught for doing more.
okay. So, but what I'm saying is, you thug it out in the bait. Now, your situation might be a little different now because you've lived in the property for a period of time. But if you get it new, just thug it out in the basement for 3 years. Let them the two tenants pay because you want them to pay the most. If they're in the basement, they can't pay the most,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
right? So if you're in the basement, you're paying nothing, and they're paying $1,000 a month each. Your mortgage is only $1,500 a month, so you're getting $500 a month cash flow off the rip. If you take that extra 500 and put it in the mortgage, and then you take 500 of what you would spend on your portion of the rent and put that into a life insurance policy properly structured, within 5 years, you'll have enough cash value to take that and use that as a collateral assign. I have a client who's doing it right now. He only had his policy with me for 2 years, but he's about to buy a house in Panama for $200K off his life insurance policy.
Thanks. Wow.
He's a dude on YouTube. His name is Marty McFly. Go follow his channel.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bro. And Rael actually is the one who introduced us.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. That's what's up, man. Appreciate that. I'm a dream about that. I'm gonna have it's gonna be some 2x4s in the dream.
Hey,
Finish
listen,
the
man.
basement.
Like you said, man. Hey, if you don't have your kids with you right now, and you don't have, a crazy setup, I'd say, hey, F it, do the move, but your house is paid off, so you're in a different situation. But if you buy a new property, because one more thing before I let you go, FHA mortgages are probably the best mortgages to get, even though they're gonna force PMI on you.
Mhm.
You get a 203K loan, which is a construction loan. So now you can have your house built to kind of how you want it. Hold on, let me see what it says. It says that makes sense why basement apartments on the lower levels, even the new apartment complex, are lower because of the lower floors. Yeah. So they cost less. And generally there's less amenities, less ceiling space, things like that. Breathability, etc. So FHA loans, number one, you get a 203K. That's the best FHA loan to get, which means a construction loan. So no matter the condition that the property is in, the benefit to you is that the bank dictates the construction people. So you ain't paying the construction people up front for them to drag their ass for 60 years, right?
Mhm.
They get paid retroactively by the bank. So construction company comes in, does the work, says, "Hey, bank, come inspect." Then the bank pays them for that bit of work. Then, okay, I got to work on floor 2. Yep, you got to work on the second floor. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Did the bathrooms, did the electric, did da 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 da. Hey, bank, I did this. Inspect it. Bank comes through. Nah, nigga, that ain't right. Do that again.
Right.
Well,
Right.
we need more money. Shit, it's tough to be you, nigga.
Right.
To fix it.
You
Let
already
me
signed the
fix it.
contract that you was gonna do X, Y, Z.
Yeah. So then the bank, boom, and they only pay them after the work's completed. So that's why a 203K loan is one of the best. Next thing though, FHA is not a first-time home buyer. It's a Federal Homeowners Association loan. So you can get that 3.5% down payment loan multiple times.
Man, it'd be bomb. If you was saying this on my channel, it would be bombs going off left
Yeah, I
and
ain't
right.
got none of that shit right now. I got it. I don't know where it's at. I ain't hooked it up.
Be dropping bombs, boy. I mean, that's $1 million right there. Definitely, that's $1
Yeah,
million right there for sure.
big fat.
Because I didn't know how to. I'll be honest with you. I've heard of the 203K loans. I didn't know in full how it worked. So you saying the bank basically acts as a quasi project manager? They not just basically just gonna let you get any Joe Schmo off the street to do the property. You got to be basically, I'm sure, licensed, bonded, and everything like that, and then probably even vetted. They act as a property liaison for the property management as far as
Mm-hmm.
overseeing the construction, so they not, so you all the nails are hammered correctly and the screws are screwed, and if they ain't doing their job, they won't get paid. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
And they're gonna, and the bank probably wants you to start paying your mortgage and be a satisfied customer as soon as possible. So they're gonna make sure that damn property is fixed up efficiently and fast, and so you can get in the property and start paying that mortgage. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. I didn't even know that was how that worked.
Yeah.
Do you have to have a higher credit score than the traditional 620, or
Dude, you could qualify for a FHA loan with a 580. What are you talking about?
oh, okay, okay,
I mean, the higher the better chances are of being approved. But for an FHA, you can have a 580.
okay, that's
Yeah.
even better.
It's easier to qualify for a mortgage than it is to qualify to rent an apartment.
Now, who usually does this? Because I know women have a problem with wanting everything brand new. I mean, the reason why we even fix up houses is pretty much for women. I just kind of thought about that, like, wow, yeah. I mean, kind of to meet their standards. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
everything we do for women, make
And
everything look pretty. So who usually does this? Like, as far as in your experience,
what do you
um,
mean?
like that gets uses the 203 K loans.
So in my experience, it's usually I've seen a lot of Asian couples do it. I'll
Okay,
be honest.
couples do it. Okay,
Yeah, oh, it's heavily couples. And single women. I've never seen a single man go for a 203K loan.
not
Um,
okay. Damn. Okay, okay, I stand corrected.
I've,
I thought women had a problem with homes that look like a trap house. You know what I'm saying? It was working
yeah,
out
no.
there.
I've never seen a single man do a 203K loan. Generally, because what happens is once uh, the woman understands how the 203K loan works, she's
Mhm.
like, oh, so I get to make it mine.
Oh, so I could be the interior designer
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
put this, and this. I want this right here. I want that right now. Do you get a free? Do you get an architect to work with you, or is that included?
Usually you're gonna hire that.
Oh, so you
Right.
have to hire your architect.
Yeah.
Or even they don't need no architect. How about the construction worker? Because I took construction for a year. You have to take architectural design. You have to take multiple courses. So you could just tell the construction guy, the lead construction foreman, okay, yeah, I want this right here. I don't want the kitchen like that. I want you to knock that down because I'm gonna put a study for me and my girls, and we're gonna have our book sessions right there. So yeah, that makes sense. I didn't even think
Mm.
about that because I know women definitely they like making everything kind of different in the way they like it. So yeah, that makes sense.
No, that's absolutely fact. But yeah, it's heavily couples. Like I said, I've never seen a single because most of the single guys that I've seen would just be like, "Oh, the hell with it, I'll do the work myself."
Yeah, because
Um,
that's what I'm doing, man. I'm screwing freaking lumber and jacking up drywall. I mean, it's taking me a shit ton of time though. But I mean, yeah, it's me and my handyman. We getting down room by room, but
yeah.
it's taking a long time though. But
See, but
yeah,
that 203K loan will speed that shit up. You could just sit and drink beers and watch these niggas do the work. It's
smart
gonna cost you the
fact,
same.
facts, and wouldn't even cost me much. I mean, I can I can get if I was able to get like 50 grand, I can make this motherfucker look like the Taj Mahal. Like you said, it'd be done in like 60 days.
Mm.
I'd have from roof all the way down. I'd have everything brand new, and then it's at the end of the day, I'd only have a $50,000 loan. You know how much that would be? and with my taxes, you know how much my taxes is in this shithole, or we can call it shithole. It's all right. Less than
Yo
less,
shithole though, nigga.
but
That's
it's
the,
my
the ill
shithole.
part.
Yeah, it's my shithole. It's $800 a year, bro.
What?
And Michael Jackson's family home is down the expressway. I drive past it every time I go to the train, and
I'm
it's eight
sorry.
hundred dollars. It's $800 a year. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
Nigga, what?
yeah,
Property tax is $800 a year,
yeah.
bro. Let me give you some. So,
It's a property right across the street from mine. I think it's too high, but I contacted. I'm working with Jonathan, real deal. Like I'm trying to do some wholesale, but it's very fucking hard for me for whatever reason. But I did contact the owner of this house. He bought it in the tax sale for $1,000 across the street from my house. He wanted to sell it for 25, but I thought about it. I'm like, that's still a good play. I could probably get a deal to where I could sell it for, something more than 25. So I might contact them again. But yeah, I mean, what were you gonna say though?
no, I was just I was reading some of the comments, but fucking yo, these $800 a year. So to give you some concept, right? In Pleasantville, New York, which is a very nice area, so don't think it's not.
Okay.
I had a client who, ironically enough, was an architect, well, a construction worker, and he owned the company, so he built his house. His mortgage was $2,000 a month.
Okay.
His property taxes were $3,000 a month.
$3,000 a month. What the fuck? I mean, so his property taxes was like 30 grand a year.
Yeah.
Oh shit! What did he do for a living?
He owned the construction company that built the house.
Oh, okay. Damn.
Yeah.
Where I really want to live is like there's a town called Flossmoor. The taxes are half of it. Well, yeah, about half of that. About half of that. For a regular house, it's like 50. Some of them are as high as 15 grand a year. So your taxes will be like quasi mortgage, and that's not including the price of the house. So yeah, I'm kind of priced out of that, but
For now.
yeah, for now, yeah, but shit, I might get the house across the street. That shit.
Yeah, I ain't mad at you on that.
The motherfucking door is open though. Like, this fucking have to get the animals out there, motherfucker. But it's a brick. It's a brick
Shit,
house.
man, listen.
Shit.
Get that shit. What I would tell you, bro, is like I said, if you got to take these loans, take them because it'll get you in the properties quicker. And since you don't need to 203K them, you fix them up yourself. Thug it out in the well, you ain't even got to thug it out in the basement. You can live where you're living, and you can SRO the entire thing.
I mean, I own my own block. Like, I have a lot next door. To talk to my neighbor, I have to cross the alley.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So all these properties, if you want to,
I don't. My issue with that is I would use some rich people. I call it rich people's money, but I don't qualify. My credit is a dumpster.
No, not even on that, right? But in just right, in like I don't know how many properties you own, but if you own currently at least two, the one you live in and one investment, or if you're working on getting the investment,
I own one right now.
Okay, so if you're working on getting the investment, right? Once you get that investment property, fuck renting it out to individuals, SRO, single room occupancy, right? Now, here's where the rubber meets the road, because when you're doing stuff like SRO, sometimes you have to become creative in the way that you collect your rents. Now, it's different in states like New York, where I can charge people $1,000 a month for a room in a 3-bedroom apartment, whereas because a 3-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn in the hood is like $4 grand a month.
Well,
right?
in Gary, because the prices went up, you have to get market rate. you can get 1,200, but everything kind of got to be brand spanking new uh,
Okay.
for a month for the whole house though. But that's
You said
still
for the whole
that's still
house though.
yeah, but that's still good because you bought okay. Let's just say the house across the street is the dude 25. You put 30 in it, you get 55. I mean, you even at $1,200 a month, you get your money back within let's say less than 5 years.
Yeah, I was about to
But
say 4 5 years.
yeah, so I mean, it's still not bad, but uh, yeah, you have to get a whole house up for that amount to
Yeah,
rent.
no, narratives, you're right. You definitely have to do the SRO right, even down to the mailing address. But that's why you do like 123A Main Street, 123B Main Street, right? Um, but that ass like, yo, I quiet as kept. Like I got some people in New York, right, who do damn, I hear my New York accent coming out. I've got some people in New York will who do SROs, right? But the way they do it, like you got niggas in it'll have a 3 bedroom, so they'll charge a rack a month for each bedroom, and then normally you're supposed to share the living room, the kitchen, and the bathroom. But
Mhm.
he'll rent out the bathroom too. But that he'll rent. I mean,
Shit.
not the bathroom, the living room.
Oh, okay.
So he'll
Woo,
rent
that's
out
even still
the
though.
living room too, right?
Damn.
And then boom, 1,300 for the living room, right? So you got to pay 1,350. You got to pay extra 350 because these other three dudes can't use the living room, right?
Damn.
So
Wow.
now normally you might get $2,500 a month for that apartment. You just get an extra $1,000 a month for that apartment.
Now let me slam dunk on you.
Uh huh.
So basically, so across the street from my granny's house, my grandparents' house, they motherfucking building a group home and that's
Yeah.
where my grandfather's Masonic friend
Oh shit.
used to live. This he died and his son didn't really keep up the property, sold it. Some motherfuckers in Cali making a group home in that motherfucker, and they
Mm.
get maximum dollar out of that house because a group home, like you charge a like
Yeah.
it could be like $50,000 a head if you get state funding, 30 a person, and
Yeah.
it could be like 10 people in that joint. You one bedroom can have three bunk beds.
Yep.
Um, and I'm talking about a three-tier bunk bed of like maybe two or three or four bunk beds that have like 10 people in one room. And it's a
Damn,
four
boy.
and it's a four bed. It's a four. I mean, people ain't playing. I might be playing, but it's a lot of people that
You
stop
ain't
playing. They
playing,
ain't
huh?
playing. Yeah. So
Damn.
one bedroom might have 10 people, right? Like the Cook County Jail type shit.
Uh huh.
And then you got a 4 bedroom house. One bedroom might be for the whatever the counselors or whatever. And so you got 3 bedrooms, and you might have like 15. You might have 20 people in one house, 30,000 a head. Of course, they gotta have a cook come in or whatever to prepare the meals, and you count all those heads like
Damn.
30 grand a head.
See, I was only talking about with SRO. I was gonna say you got to take some unsavory characters
Yeah,
because
like
you
like
got to take like those vouchers and shit. But I'm about to look at group homes.
dude, I mean, like it's the cat's meow. People are kind of low key talking about it, but people don't understand. I'm kind of a little wacky, so I know a little bit more about it than the average
Mm.
person. As far as when I
Yo,
was a kid, I gave my mom a little bit more problems than the average problem child.
whoa,
So yeah,
sheesh.
group homes, you get state funding, uh, for like just say from I mean, it could be various reasons. Like you get grants for homeless housing. Obviously when prisoners come home. Sometimes they call them halfway houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's also state funding. It's a play that's kind of on the low. Some people are talking about it, but like you said, while you explain the 203K, uh, people talk about it, right? Like in general, but when somebody explains how it goes down, it elaborates. It kind of
Rings the bell.
it pulls back the layers and actually kind of like a mastermind or a conference kind of explains how it actually goes down. See, like I never knew how the 203K actually goes down. Like when you read some literature on the 203K, it's just a bunch of English that you're reading, and it's like somebody actually explaining it to you verbatim is more valuable and more resourceful than just some letters on a pamphlet. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So yeah, like that's literally how the group home thing goes down. Like a lot of them get state funding. Um, and they get so much per person that it is literally it's air it's Airbnb and rentals on it's not even compared to it.
Yeah, that's
You
steroids,
you you
man.
you
Yo, you
get
just said. Do you know what you said on the
yeah
low end? $30,000 a head,
yeah
and then
yeah,
they be having 10 niggas in there, and then they be rotating.
that's literally $1 million worth of game just
Yo,
in one
I'm about
property.
to find a way and open
Y-
me up a fucking group home,
Yes,
man. I'm
yeah.
about to
You
listen.
gotta think about it. If you don't have a criminal record, you gotta maximize your maximum return of what you qualify for, what you can what you're capable of doing.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that dude Andre Hatchett that does the
notary.
notary. I was
Yeah.
like, man, are you doing that? Cause like,
Oh yeah, I already signed up. You know what's crazy? I was supposed to get my notary license in New York, but the reason I didn't because you have to pay for every fucking county, and
yeah,
I was like, nah, because you like they make you pay for zip codes, and you know
yeah.
how many zip codes it is in New York City.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just I don't know how much time you got, but I'm like, okay, with the group home stuff. See, a lot of times people don't really talk about the government. They always say your boys over at the Brain Trust, Mike and them always talk about grants, but that's it. That's how far their elevator goes. But the thing is that what I'm talking about is explaining how the government actually they need people to do things like open group homes because they don't have enough places to take these people.
Yeah.
They have the money to pay for services, but it's not a lot of people that's offering services. So literally, it's a deficit of people to provide services for. Like for example, you got in Illinois kids sleeping on the floor in the DCFS. In Illinois, it's called the Department of Children and Family Services, which is
DCFS.
DCFS. So you got kids sleeping on the floor because they don't have nowhere to take these kids, and also they're sleeping. They're actually living in the Audi home because or juvenile because basically they don't have nowhere to take these kids. That's
Damn.
why child like I don't know if you know this. In Illinois, if you got a child care license, that's literally worth $1 million
Really?
because your house or whatever you have, it could be an apartment. You literally are in contract with the state, and the state can pretty much give you children to to basically babysit that are DC that are wards of the state.
Oh
Um,
shit.
and you get per child or grant money to
So
your
wait, this tax free fucking dollars.
I don't know the legalities as far as the taxes and stuff like that. I
Okay.
mean, you could talk to Illinois CPA and they could probably break that down. But the thing is that I'm talking about like if you get a child care license, which is not easy to get, But if you can get one, my mom was at one time trying to get that, but if you get one, it literally is worth. It could be very much worth $1 million alone because you can basically do private and government business as far as like I'm saying DCFS children that need long term care or short term care, and build a state for taking care of these children that it,
Wow.
pretty much they need servicers to help because they don't have government doesn't have, they're slow to do stuff like
Right.
open up centers and stuff like that. So I mean, when you talk about like the government grants and stuff like that, it kind of, a lot of people that do it already. That's why if you notice, if you know anybody in Illinois that has a child care, that's a child care provider, they're balling. I
Damn.
mean, they already have the Range Rover, whatever car they want, and all that crap, because they literally print money because it's, I mean, they're getting state funding, and then also private child care. You ain't had kids yet.
Mm.
Wait till you start. Once you start growing those seeds, man. Man,
Yeah.
child care is more expensive than private school, man.
Damn.
When I had mine, we were paying like $300 a week or something like that, $200
Shit.
a week, yeah. And me and my ex-wife, we weren't even making that much then, and that was per child. It's
Damn.
like, you got two children, um, you damn near better have state funding to kind of cover the cost of that, which she did at one time. Um, it's expensive. It's way
Mm.
more expensive than private school. I'm talking about private school, which is private school. I think was like 10 grand or 15 grand a semester.
Yeah.
It's expensive. Yeah, child care is, and then you got kids. The like white. I was talking to a white lady I work with. She was like a director. Used to work for I used to work for Baxter Pharmaceuticals. She
Hmm.
had some money, so she had twins. She said she was paying $1,000 a head for each
I'm
one
not
of her
surprised. Per
babies
week.
per week. Yeah,
Damn.
and that was like a kind of upper tier private school. I mean, child care
Okay.
provider or whatever. So it's expensive, dude. Like that. People do not know how expensive child care is. That's why, like a lot of times, women would be crying and bitching about their baby daddy because, like, at least the baby daddy could do is watch them kids, and he's motherfucking valuable. I swear to God, I'm a bum that ain't got nothing but sperm that could watch kids is worth at least $200 or $300 a week per kid.
Damn,
Like,
that
I
nigga said a
mean,
bum that ain't got nothing but sperms but can watch some kids
yeah,
worth at least
dude. Just by
$300 a
you
week.
just staying in the house and playing PlayStation, that's why they have a dude that they ain't gonna trip too much. He just a man king and stay at home because he's valuable just by being able to stay at home if that's just how it is for a
Yeah.
while, so he can watch them kids because they expensive. You know,
Damn, son. Nigga
child
told
care
that
is
nigga
expensive as fuck.
that Madden, that Xbox Live is cheaper
And
than
you
that.
ain't got to the formula and the diapers and the food and shit. Babies don't eat that much baby food, but
Yeah, but
the
the diaper.
formula is expensive, and they had the shortage, so that was like crazy, you know. Because women don't pump out that much breast milk
No. Mm.
that fast, to keep up with supply. So yeah, it's a whole this little daddy baby making world, man, is a whole nother monster.
Damn, son said, nigga, if you
Say,
ain't nothing but a Madden king, you worth $300 a week.
nigga, I made a video like when my channel like started 7 years ago. That was one of my first videos. Was um how much is a man worth? What's the worth of a man? Even if you a dude ain't got no job, you're by proxy of you just being a man, you're a security guard. Most burglars, you know, R words, uh, you know, criminals that are committing violent crime, as soon as they see a man, they going the other way. So you by
Yeah.
proxy a bodyguard, that's valuable. You watch your own children, you know, or even her children that ain't yours, you
Yeah.
know.
Got some homeboys in that position.
Yeah, babysitting is worth a lot of money in child care. Um, you know, being able to take the garbage out, you know, taking the car to go get service, and women already know um they get hosed down at a car repair shop because
Yeah.
a lot of women don't know about cars. And
Shit, a
then
lot of men don't either. But
yeah,
listen, I'm about to
yeah.
close it down and go watch me some YouTube
Oh
fuckery.
yeah, all right, for sure, man.
So
I appreciate the game, man.
no doubt.
You
Listen, man, I'm gonna do more of these because I be seeing you, man. You be doing your marathons over there. I be like, yo, this man got fucking game for y'all. Now I gotta go get me some bombs and shit. But I'm
yeah,
gonna be doing that.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, listen, thank you for coming up. So let me go ahead and close out. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the content, make sure you hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. And as always, share, share, share. Lastly, to contribute to channel growth or to schedule an appointment with a licensed financial professional, the links are in the description of this video. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, wipe ass, work in progress every day and see success. Wipe ass, work in progress every day and see success. Wipe ass, work in progress every day and see success. And remember, folks, when people challenge you, they don't challenge you to challenge you, but they challenge you to challenge you. Accept the challenge. Salute.